Hey, what's going on, everybody? Thanks for coming to another show. If you've made it here live, I'm going to be reviewing a little bit more of Darth Dawkins as he attempts to, well, it's just more documenting his struggles with logic. This is actually starting to tax my interest a little bit because this one goes on for a little bit. It's not a really long video, but he has a conversation at the beginning. Eventually, he starts talking to a guy named Cool Guy Jeff 69. Based on the interaction, the spoiler alert that I can give is he doesn't like Cool Guy Jeff 69 very much at all. So we're going to jump into that a little bit here. But yeah, this is him kind of talking. Tom Rabbit put this one up, I think, just over the weekend, and I've watched it once. I think I missed the tail end of it, like the last couple of minutes. So yeah, I'm just going to get this one started. Let me change the aspect ratio here, embiggen that image a little bit there. I'm going to get this going. If anybody has anything that they, if anything comes up, volume issues or anything like that, as always, holler at me. But we'll get this one started and see where it goes.
Hey, Tom Rabbit! I hope you got this for your recording. Hey, YouTube out there. Tom Rabbit likes to record these. Hey, Tom Rabbit! Was anybody here the last couple of hours who remembers the name of that young woman who I was discussing the existence of God, and she accused me of affirming the consequence? Anybody remember what her name was?
It's like Zini, something like it.
Maybe.
Hurry up and grow your channel so I can give you unsolicited money. I appreciate that, Tristan. I'm trying, but I'm growing slowly but organically. It's like a free-range chicken. You know, I'm not fattening up quickly, but you know, it's steady and it's healthy growth, baby.
Maybe
Zany, if something like ZE, something like, I don't know.
So these guys are struggling to figure out. If you guys remember the last video, when this was pointed out, it was pointed out by Marty. He said something about circularity. Everybody else was going on and observing that it was affirming the consequent. I'm sure Darth has run across other comments. Maybe he hasn't. Maybe he hasn't seen other comments on it. The username was Seraphina, and she was on this particular Discord server, this politics one, and she was the one that pointed it out to him, and she even wrote it out. She was like, "Look, I put in the chat for this voice chat that we're having. This is the structure. That's affirming the consequent. P implies Q. P is affirming the consequent." And he, nope, she's wrong. So he's doubling down or tripling down on this, I should say. And then he takes this into some. He actually gets into something where I think he actually fixes it at one point, and then we'll just go on. No more spoilers.
Yeah, because I want to remember.
What was her argument?
She said that I was committing the affirming the consequence fallacy, which I was not. Okay, she wasn't understanding the reasoning. I understand why she made that mistake. Affirming the consequences is like,
she did make the mistake, and it's affirming the consequent, or it's like what's one another? I don't think it's ever called affirming the consequence, but it has other names like a error of converse or the converse error or something like that. There's other names for it, but he keeps saying affirming the consequence. It's affirming the consequent.
If it is raining outside, the street will be wet. The street is wet, therefore it is raining. That would be affirming the consequence. Because the second premise doesn't necessarily, that would be the street will be.
Here we go. But these wet streets.
If it is raining outside, the street will be wet. The street is wet, therefore it is raining.
Yes.
That would be affirming the consequence.
Affirming the consequent, and yes, because you started off P and Q, and then Q, and then P. That is affirming the consequent. That's the structure.
Because the second premise doesn't necessarily entail that it's raining. The wet street could be from some other source.
It's the structure, Darth. The structure of it when you're trying to affirm this positive claim in modus ponens is P, Q, P, then Q. If you want to do P, Q, not Q, not P, you can do that. But you don't get to do P, Q, Q, P, and have it be anything other than affirming the consequent. It doesn't matter what you're logging in there. That form is not valid. I don't know that there's any way really around that outside of like maybe trying to construe like some kind of crazy ass argument to justify why you put Q in there instead of P, but that's not the point, right? Like if that's the case, it's easier to just pull, readjust P and Q from the beginning. So he gets this when it comes to rain and streets, but for some reason he didn't get this when it came to God and manifestations. So,
but my line of reasoning didn't measure up to that, so it wasn't affirming the consequence. But I just want to remember her name so I could go over it with her again.
Well, if the argument is P then Q, Q therefore P,
Q. Yeah, we have to be careful with modal logic because sometimes it cannot accurately represent the line of reasoning, especially if the line of reasoning is truncated. Okay. So, for example, if I said, if God reveals himself through a manifestation that necessarily...
Okay, he's getting into the argument. Before I listen to that, Perk writes, do you think DD-style Christians would ever care about logic if others didn't bring it up? Yeah, because I think they kind of had to. I think I kind of went off on a little bit of a tangent on this, if not on my last video, then on someone else's. Yeah, because I think this is the reason that I think this has become sort of a monster for these kinds of apologists is because of, or like wannabe apologists, is because they were being confronted by sort of online atheists who were saying, hey, your stance is a X fallacy or a Y fallacy or something like that. And I don't know how long ago that went back, but I mean this is kind of a debate, the kind of debate bro stuff that happens across multiple different channels, whether it's religion or politics. This has gotten into all sorts of stuff. And so I think that the more that kind of got entered into it, I think they started reacting by for somebody like Darth and others, the easiest thing to do would be to gravitate towards guys like Van Til and stuff, where they had this kind of like ability to sort of I don't see it as anything other than special pleading, but they seem to think that it's some kind of special theology, and therefore it gets them out of this accusation of special pleading, but it's not. So I don't know if they would have been the first ones to bring it up, but you do notice though that guys with Darth is unique in the fact that he doesn't ever, now that he's in the realm of like logic and stuff, he's constantly talking about the realms of like philosophical, metaphysical justifications, arguments, deductive arguments, fallacies. How often do you ever hear somebody like Darth? It was specifically Darth, just to keep it simple, specifically Darth. How often do you hear him mention faith or the importance of it, or taking things on faith, or feeling Jesus in your heart, so to speak? I think the only thing this guy feels in his heart is maybe the angina or heartburn from the chili. But to me, back when I was a Christian, that was an important thing, how Christianity made you feel and how your relationship with God made you feel. And it was this, there were things that were revealed to you as a spirit being that transcended just pure, transcended reason and all this rhetoric and stuff like that. Darth's just pure rhetoric as far as I can tell now. So, yeah, and I did want to, other than that, put this one back on it. So let's see what he goes here.
If God reveals himself through a manifestation that necessarily entails his existence, then we can know that he exists.
Okay, so if God reveals himself through a manifestation that necessarily entails that he exists, P, that's P, all that junk is P, then we can know he exists. Q.
There is a manifestation that necessarily entails God.
Okay, so that's
therefore we know God exists.
Okay, that's. Oh, I mean, it's a little clunky, because he's kind of like leaving out some stuff there, but that's basically right. P, Q, P, and Q. Right? Like he's not trying to do the if there's a God that can manifest itself in a way that necessarily entails that it exists, then we can know it. He didn't go, we know it, therefore God manifesting himself in that necessary way exists. So he didn't screw it up. He got it right. P, Q, P, Q. So okay. So far so good. I think the idea of him trying to do the whole P, God, if God exists, he manifests himself in a way that would necessarily or manifests necessarily, whatever. That stuff, I don't know if that's really all that necessary, but
That would not be affirming the consequence, because the second premise necessarily entails what the first premise lays out. Okay?
Well, I'm not exactly sure where he's going with that, but howdy, John Vapiano. Good Lord, was Dumpkins was laying on the rhetoric today? That must have been in Discord then. I know I think Supreme Leader streamed him for a little bit today. I think earlier this afternoon. I tuned into it quickly while I was working, but I was on the phone and stuff. I couldn't listen. I had to mute it and set my phone aside. So assumption failure. Darth doesn't have a heart. Okay, well, whatever it is he feels in the center of his chest, whatever that, not sure. Thanks, Colonel. Heartburn, thanks to the chili. Full diaper, thanks to the chili. Yeah, I mean it, and that logically follows. I wonder if Darth can. I think Darth could mess up that order.
So if I said to you, let's see, what's a good example? If there's snow on the ground, then necessarily it is snowing outside.
So he should not do this, because I don't know exactly what's wrong. He keeps calling some of the stuff like modal logic, and I don't know that like modus ponens is modal logic. Perhaps it is. I thought modal logic was dealing with things like sufficiency, necessity, probability, possibility, that kind of stuff. I think that's slightly different. But the fact that he's trying to lard up his premises with words like necessary or necessarily, it does not save one from the fact if you violate the inference rule that you're trying to construct your argument in. So he stumbles around on this one. I'm just waiting to see if he actually goofs.
And then premise 2, there is snow on the ground, therefore it's snowing. Well, the snow could have come from a truck that was delivering it, okay, to somewhere. That's snowing. And then premise 2, it is snowing. Snow on the ground, then necessarily it is snowing outside. And then premise 2.
Okay, if there's snow on the ground, that's P, Q, then it is snowing. A little lame, but okay.
There is snow on the ground, therefore it's snowing. Well, the snow could have come from a truck that was delivering it, okay, to somewhere.
Yeah, I think he's actually, if there's snow on the ground, therefore it's snowing. There's snow on the ground. No, that would be okay. So he'd be getting it right. Okay.
But if the consequence necessarily points to the first premise, then it's not affirming the consequence. It's only when the consequence can be the result of some other source.
No, that happens because you violate the structure. When it's P, Q, and then you do Q and then P, that's what makes that happen. Like you could put in almost anything in there and it's not going to work because of the fact you're attempting to affirm something in a positive way. You're not affirming. That's why it works the opposite way in modus tollens, right? You would say, was the one that I get from modus ponens. It would be, if Darth is tired, he will say philosophy is stupid. Darth is tired, therefore he said philosophy is stupid, right? That's not necessarily a sound argument, right? But it's valid. That structure works. That's modus ponens. A modus tollens argument would be something like if Darth is tired, he will say logic is stupid, or philosophy is stupid. He didn't say philosophy was stupid. That's Q. Therefore, he isn't tired, right? That's modus tollens, and that works. I kind of wonder if maybe he's sort of blurring the two. Like he seems to get the two of them goofed up. But he's not trying to do anything with like any kind of, he's not trying to like do anything with a negative. So I don't know. I think maybe he's just not used to using the structure, and logic's not intuitive. That's sort of the point. I think it's meant to be counterintuitive because it's meant to, you're kind of supposed to break this down step by step and really analyze it. You're not supposed to rip through it quickly. So okay, so now he's giving us the snow one. Snow one's really not any different than his water one or his God one, even though it was God one. The P in that first premise was a little larded up.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's just question begging then.
No, it's not question begging, not at all. So, for example,
now see, that's another thing too, is the idea of like, just because the formal fallacy of affirming the consequent isn't happening, doesn't mean that there isn't question begging going on in either the argument or maybe even in the premises, and that's what I think this guy's starting to get to.
If I said to you, if it is raining outside and there is no other source of water, then we can know that it is raining. There's water on the road, therefore we know it's raining. That would not be affirming the consequence. It's raining.
Hang on.
And there is no other source of water.
What's he doing?
If it is raining outside,
that's P,
and there is no other source of water, then we can know that it is raining. There's water on the road, therefore we know it's raining. That would not be affirming the consequence.
Now he's starting to get back into it because that first premise doesn't.
If we said if it is raining outside, the road will be wet, and then we say the road is wet, therefore it's raining. That would be affirming the consequence.
Right.
Well, I can see why you would say that because we know there are different reasons why the road could be wet, but the whole purpose of the fallacy is to keep the argument of truth preserving, which doesn't presuppose that we know all the possible reasons for the road being wet.
So when I say, if God decides to reveal himself through a manifestation that would necessarily entail his existence, then we can know he exists. There is a manifestation that necessarily entails his existence. Then the conclusion God exists is valid and sound.
No, it's valid. He got it right. That one is valid. He's getting it right. But now he's trying to say that now he's trying to suggest, well, that's valid and sound. No, it's valid. Sound means it has to be true, and you really and a lot of those premises are very they're up for argument. So yeah, he doesn't understand the burden here between that. I think this is weird. I think he just, well, it's valid, therefore it's sound. Like, no, and you don't say valid and sound like you're in a court of law or something. By declaring it, you make it so. Like validity is a little bit easier. It's a little easier to hit that threshold with validity. You just have to make sure you're not violating that inference rule. But once you've got that, all right, we can go from there. But to then just turn around and say, well, that's a sound argument. No, it's not. And if he really cared about if he cared about formal logic at this, even to this degree, this kind of basic degree, if he was sincerely concerned about being accurate and being careful and considerate with this, I think the word he uses for those things is circumspect, but being considerate and cautious and careful, making sure that you've got it right, being conscientious about it, he would not throw around the claim it's sound. That's a tougher burden to meet.
Yeah, it's just modus ponens, right? P implies Q, P therefore Q.
Because the manifestation necessarily entails God. It's not that the manifestation might be explained by God, but it could be explained by something else. That's why she made the mistake of saying that I was affirming the consequence.
Yeah, I would have to see the argument again because the P then Q, Q, P is.
I just said it to you, okay? If God decides to reveal himself through a manifestation that
Hey, Jail. Thanks for showing up. Bridge the Divide, or Jail Warren. Good to see you. And good show, by the way, on the Discord thing, that stream that you did with Randolph and Taco and Jack Burton. It was good.
Necessarily entails him, then we can know that God exists. There is a manifestation that necessarily entails God, therefore we know God exists.
Yeah, so I think P2 is just begging because it entails the conclusion.
No, it does not.
See, now he's talking about something else because it entails the conclusion. In this case, I think he's onto something, but what's not happening here in this case is that I think Darth jumps off on this. I think he starts getting upset, like this guy is coming after him for the same reason that Serafina did. He's not actually affirming the consequent in this case. It's still not a great argument, like if you're thinking about the substance of what's going on there. And I'm pretty sure it's still engaging in at least one or two, informal fallacies. But that formal fallacy of affirming the consequent, he's not goofing up the structure with these. Not yet, anyway. We'll see.
It is not asserting that God exists. It simply says the manifest. No, it does not. It doesn't assert that God exists. It simply says the manifestation entails God. It implies God.
Then that means so does that mean there's a possibility that he's not exist? Because before he was talking about necessarily. Like if this manifestation is something that you can experience, then it necessarily follows that God exists. So now he's trying to say like, oh no, that just entails God. Yeah, which means its existence is necessary for the manifestation to even matter. So even though he's managed to like kind of get some of these things into the modus ponens structure, like he's not completely violating validity, he's still struggling with this concept.
Exclusively. So it's not begging the question.
All right, I'm going to have to look at it again. Can you go over it?
Yeah, I said if God decides to manifest himself in a way where the manifestation necessarily entails him or necessarily and exclusively implies him, then we can know God exists. There is a
the reason why this is sort of useless is because, like, well, if this thing chose to reveal itself in a way that convinced you that it existed, well, then it can do that, and then you'd know. No shit. But what's your like? So what? And it does kind of follow from like, well, no, what? So if Darth wants to sit on this and try to say, well, this is how we can know. Okay, so now what are you going to say? Well, the manifestation is nature itself. Okay, so when God chose to reveal himself to us in a way that it necessarily follows that revelation means he exists. So it's demonstrable and it's essentially unavoidable. Look at the trees. Then how is it that the one thing that you can push back on, how is it that anyone can why would they refuse God? I guess then he would go back into Paul's bag of tricks in Romans, like, oh no, you know God, you know that there's a God, you just deny it because you want to sin. So yeah, I think pretty soon here he's maybe minutes away from starting to like chase after some theological claims because the logic is going to tire his brain.
The manifestation that necessarily implies God exclusively, therefore we can know God exists.
Yeah, I think that's interesting, Mr. Lumpkin. Darth's argument is different every time. Yeah, like he can't be precise in his words. Like he's constantly changing the premises. He's constantly changing. Like this was the problem before. Like he was screwing up. He was screwing up the order, and that he was convinced that he had this affirming the consequent thing nailed down where it worked for him. There is a God that exists, and if this God exists, it can manifest itself in a way that we can know him. It manifests itself in a way that we can know him. Therefore, that God exists. Like what? No, no. That violated the validity right there. What he's attempting to argue now is basically the same thing, but he's not really screwing up the validity part. He's not really screwing up the inference rule as often. Although a couple of these ones that he's tried to word have been really, really clunky.
The manifestation that necessarily entails God is not asserting that God exists. It just simply says the manifestation entails God.
Yeah, but how could there be a manifestation of God if God didn't exist?
That's not the issue.
That is an issue, right? That's actually the central issue. That's what's necessary for the conclusion to work. Like if he's making an argument that there's a you know, God could manifest itself in a way that we can know him to be true, then the manifestation, it's assuming the existence of the God itself. The God has to do the revealing. That's like if Bigfoot's real, it could actually show itself in the forest, and we would know it to be true. And right, that Bigfoot is real, and he shows himself to us in the forest. Oh, all right. That doesn't really get you anywhere. There's almost no reason to do that. Like if this thing's real, we would have some kind of evidence for it, right? Maybe some third-party verification for that evidence. Like this, this is where Darth really starts. Like I'm not exactly sure why he's even bothering with this stuff anymore. Like he's essentially gotten away from the modus, from the affirming the consequent thing. But like I said, if he gets this right, he's never going to acknowledge the adjustment. He's not going to acknowledge that he was ever wrong. The way he's talking about this argument now, it's as if he never worded it wrong all those other times before. Serafina was out of her mind, right? She was just an hysterical woman, and her feeble mind doesn't hold a candle to the big brain energy coming off of Darth's intellect, right? Even though she was exactly right, and she was right enough that he reflected on it long enough to get his shit right, at least the structure right. He went and took a look at this stuff because you could tell he's sounding it out a little bit slower. He's being a little bit more careful, and he gets it right, at least, structure-wise, inference rule-wise. Does he acknowledge any of the input that he got from people? Especially Serafina. She wasn't being rude. No, she was mistaken. It was people like her. It was that input that helped you to make a better argument. I mean, it's still a crap argument, but at least it's not automatically fucked up from you just, brutally mutilating modus ponens. This guy did exactly what I thought he would. He didn't. I mean, he consistently disappoints in such a way that he didn't disappoint me there. Jill says that's even worse because we cannot make the distinction as to what is nature if everything or nature is God because there's nothing of comparison. Yeah, and I think I've actually heard people try to run something similar like that by Darth Dawkins before, and he would just sort of flail around. Someone would try to kind of come up like, well, okay. I think actually it might have been Tom Jump had said something like that. Like, well, if you're going to suggest something like that, you could just say that nature itself is God or the universe or reality or whatever, kind of a pantheistic claim, or something kind of, in the ballpark of a pantheistic claim. And Darth will shriek and howl like, no, that's not what I'm saying at all. Like, okay. In the end, he's got to get back to this whole like his revelational, theology stuff.
That doesn't ruin the form of the argument.
Yeah, I'm not.
If there is a manifestation, if God decides to reveal Himself through a manifestation, and the manifestation necessarily implies God.
That's all P. All that stumbling around, that's all just P.
It necessarily implies God.
That it necessarily implies God? Is that part Q?
Then we can know God exists. There is a manifestation.
Then we can know God exists. Okay.
That implies God. Therefore, God exists. The second premise does not reveal Himself through a manifestation, and the manifestation necessarily implies God. It necessarily implies God. Then we can know God exists. There is a manifestation that implies God. Therefore, God exists.
That one he goofed up, right? Because now the conclusion is different than so P, Q, P, then Q, right? But that's not like the Q in the first part, right? He's saying that there's a manifestation. We could know that God exists. P, there's a manifestation of God. Therefore, God is real or God exists. But that's not. Therefore, we could know God exists. That's what Q was. He's inserting something new in there. So now he's just. I don't know what that kind of fallacy is, but that's a different Q than before.
The second premise does not assert the existence of God. It simply just says the manifestation entails that.
But then he makes it worse by switching Q. This would be better if he had actually stayed consistent with it. I'm going to rewind that again and listen to him stumble hump his way through that explanation again.
Not the issue.
Yeah, but how could there be a manifestation of God if God didn't exist?
That's not the issue. That doesn't ruin the form of the argument.
Yeah, I'm not.
He might have a point there. It doesn't necessarily ruin the form of the argument, but what Darth does here next does kind of fuck up his argument, and it sort of lends credence to what this guy's what his criticism is.
There is if there is a manifestation, if God decides to reveal himself.
Okay, if God decides to reveal himself
through a manifestation, and the manifestation necessarily implies God.
None of that is necessary. So if God decides to reveal himself through some kind of manifestation,
it necessarily implies God, then we can know God exists. There is.
Okay. If God reveals himself through some manifestation, we could know God.
There is a manifestation that implies God.
There is a manifestation.
Therefore God exists.
Therefore God exists. The cue is different. So he's supposed to end that with we can know God, or we could know there's a God.
The second premise does not assert the existence of God. It simply just says the manifestation entails that.
The argument is built on that God. The God has to exist in order for the manifestation to entail anything. I don't know why he's still struggling with this.
Yeah, so I mean, if you can just determine God from P2, it's trivial, right? It's just question begging.
It's not trivial. It's not question begging.
It's
true of every deductive argument.
Yeah, you know what's amazing? It blows my mind how either incompetent or dishonest people are. All P2 is saying is that there is a manifestation that necessarily entails or implies God. That's all. Yeah. It's not question begging. Okay, saying God exists is not the same proposition as saying that there's a manifestation that implies God.
But the point of the manifestation is that it implies that God exists. We can know him.
Said it did.
Well, okay, you know what? Fuck off. Get out of here. You know what? This is what I can't stand is some of these philosophical types. They're so fucking dishonest.
He wasn't being that.
They're like that Martin Short character who was the lawyer for the tobacco company. I didn't say that. You said that. They simply don't care.
Isn't that an SNL reference?
Out of here, or I'll ban your sorry little ass.
Don't ban me.
No, not you. To say that there's a manifestation, and that the manifestation necessarily implies God, right, is not the same thing as saying God exists. God exists.
I assume that he meant something like that's going to be the controversial premise, right? Like someone who doesn't believe that God
saying God, and that the manifestation necessarily implies God, right, is not the same thing as saying God exists. God exists.
I assume that he meant something.
Doesn't it though? Especially if you're larding it with the word necessarily. I mean, isn't the point of this argument from Darth that there can be a revelation from God that is so overwhelming, so absolutely true, that it necessarily entails the reality that God exists? That requires that God's existence in order for that manifestation to happen. Otherwise, where is that manifestation coming from? Like, I really don't understand why he's doing this. He has a better argument if he just embraces the fact that and the thing is, he's fixed the structure. He's not acknowledged the fact that people have told him this. He's fixed the structure. This is not an issue as much. I mean, it still is because he won't let it go. This is less of an issue now that the validity isn't screwed up, but he's still screwing this up. It's unbelievable.
Like, that's going to be the controversial premise, right? Like someone who doesn't believe that God exists is either going to.
That's fine. That's okay. I can understand that.
I'm gonna steal this. It's B cubed bargain basement puns and bullshit.
Yeah, I know. But you see, this is the favorite thing of sophists to do, is just say, they just throw out, oh, you're just begging the question. You're begging the question. They do this all the time. And it's
What was the name of
extremely
that
annoying.
before? What was
That's an interesting question, Enrique. Wouldn't this argument fixed make him an evidentialist? I mean, yeah, I mean, maybe, unless he tries to say that the revelation or the manifestation hits you in the soul. That's the only thing, because I've heard Christians make that argument. No, the revelation that occurs is not something that you see with you don't experience it with your senses, you experience it with your spirit. Then in that case, it's basically a faith kind of appeal, and then you can, those are always my favorite ones, because okay, so it doesn't matter at all. I'll just blow that off.
the name of it?
Affirming the
Affirming the
consequent.
consequence. Affirming the consequent, or quent, excuse me.
Consequent.
Okay.
Okay.
So if it's raining outside, the street will be wet. The street is wet, therefore it's raining outside.
No.
Now,
Oh,
you can evade that.
He's okay. He got it wrong by getting it right. He got it right. That was a correct demonstration of affirming the consequent, which is good because he did it enough the last several times. It should be. I'm surprised he can even construct anything in Modus ponens anymore.
By defining that the street is wet, that there's no other water source. Okay. And then you avoid it, or avoid the.
It doesn't matter that it's a water. It just means it's another. There could be something else that caused it. That's the only thing that does. Good Lord, man. But we'll see. What's important to realize is there could be another source of water. The streets could just appear to be wet, or somebody peed all over them, or it's not water, it's blood. But I don't know what he's doing here. This just demonstrates a complete lack of imagination.
Problem. It's just when there's another option for the street being wet. If the only option for the street being wet is rain, then you're not guilty of the fallacy.
Right. Now,
No, you're guilty of the fallacy when you construct it wrong, you ding dong. That's the faulty construction is why that becomes a problem, because oh my God. Oh.
when you say there's no other water source, you mean no other water source present at the time, because there may have been water source.
Yeah, what we're saying is that the water on the street could not have been from any other source. Okay.
Right. So if there was a flood.
If you're constructing it logically, like if the streets, if it rains outside, the streets will be wet. P and Q, right? It has rained outside, therefore the streets are wet, right? That follows. If you try to do this thing, if it rains outside, the streets are wet. The streets are wet, therefore it rained outside. No, that's the reason it's affirming there could be another reason why the streets are wet. Maybe they appear to be wet. Maybe that's not water out there, etc. There's lots of different reasons. That's why it's called affirming. That's why it's affirming the consequent. That I don't know why it's like, well, what we need to talk about is the other possible sources of water. Like, you're right, Sherlock. That's exactly why this is an issue. Like, but if you rule out any of those things, you could construct it this way, and it wouldn't be a problem at all. No, no, that's not it.
Flood that just went through recently, and there's water in the street. That's you can't say, oh, that was created by the rain because it was created by the flood. Understood.
No, we can just simply say, if it is raining outside, the street will be wet. And then
what if there's two water sources that are present at the same time?
What I'm saying, look, you can avoid the fallacy is when you. I'm trying to think how to word this because I'm not trained in modal logic.
It's not modal. You don't have to. What the?
It's only a fallacy
if you construct it wrong.
The water can have another source.
It's a fallacy due to the construction of the argument. You're violating the inference rule. It's nothing to do with the other possibilities, whatever they may be. There's irrelevant number, type, You could come up with completely absurd possibilities. It does not matter. You violated it. You created a violation in the argument because you violated the inference rule. The inference rule, modus ponens. That's why it's called. It's value preserving. If it's in that, that's a you're on the track. You're on track to having to talking about something that is truth preserving. Excuse me. I think this is value preserving, truth preserving. I'm losing my the ability to use basic words. I've been listening to too much Darth Dawkins. I'm not even sure why he's talking about this or why they talk about this for as long as they do. This is really strange.
Okay. Right.
So you could conjoin some other premises there to try to make it like.
I would be wording it
logically
better, but
valid.
I'm very tired. Okay.
So if there's two water
Okay, so here we go. So he's already he's putting a little bit of a caveat out there. I'm very tired. Watch out, people. He's going to say philosophy is stupid. He's already kind of implied it. The struggle is real. Yes, it is very real. You don't have to be trained in anything to know how examples work. Yeah, that's true too.
sources present at the same time, you can't conclude that it was
if we say if it is raining outside, the street will be wet. Okay, the street is wet. But if in the reasoning or the argument you rule out any other source of water, then you're not guilty of the fallacy.
No, that is not how you. That is not how one avoids affirming the consequent. You avoid affirming the consequent by constructing your argument correctly. You construct it with modus ponens. You don't screw it up. That's how you avoid that fallacy. The amount of water or sources of water or other possibilities is not relevant. The fact that when you affirm the consequent, it highlights the fact that any other possibility could be the source of that. That's the problem with it. That's why it's affirming the consequent. The structure highlights that issue. So it's no longer truth preserving. Like, I don't know why he's doing this.
Understood.
Okay, it's only when the street being wet could be wet for another reason other than it's raining outside.
So
just stop. At this point, somebody should have taken Darth's internet away. Like, nope. Stop it.
So can I give you a little bit of a question? So let's say it's raining, right? But every time it rains in this particular
not you
area,
again. Oh, go ahead.
and it creates a flood. And the street is wet. Is that because of the flood, or is it because of the rain?
Well, it would be indirectly from the rain.
Okay.
It wouldn't be directly from the rain. It would be indirect.
Thank you for answering my question.
You could say, if it is raining out, the street will be wet. The street is wet, and there is no other possible water source other than rain. Therefore, it's raining.
What? Hang on, I got it.
Okay. Well, water raining out, the street will.
Answering my question.
You could say, if it is raining out, the street will be wet. The street is wet, and there is no other possible water source other than rain. Therefore, it's raining.
No, that is still fucking affirming the consequent. What the fuck? Just because you put a caveat into premise 2, you are still violating the structure of modus ponens. That is affirming the consequent. This is insanity. Like, but there's no possibility it could be anything else. Therefore, yeah, that argument. I'm surprised he didn't double down. Like, now that argument is valid and sound per Darth Dawkins, stamped, certified.
Okay. It's just sometimes when people
don't know what they're doing and fuck about with things they don't get.
And I'm sure I'm guilty of this too.
Yup.
Express their reasoning in an inarticulate way.
And an invalid way.
Or they don't give enough specificity.
Or violate inference rules.
And so because there's not enough specificity,
or adherence to inference rules,
that it appears that they're committing, affirming the consequent.
because they're engaging in blatant formal fallacies. Yes, couldn't have said it better myself, Darth. Thank you.
So like that guy when I said in premise 2 that there is a manifestation that necessarily implies the existence of God. And then I said, therefore we can know God exists. He says that begs the question, but P2 is not the same thing as the conclusion. It's just that there's a manifestation, and the manifestation entails or exclusively implies God. Yeah, sometimes these fallacies can be tricky, and sometimes people.
Well, yeah, they're really tricky if you keep walking into them. It just I can't even put up with them this time. Yeah, I actually I know the feeling. I had a hard time with this one. I actually did. Listening to, I only made it through. Like I said, I only watched this one one time, and I even kind of like I was going to do this one last night, and I was on another stream, and I got to the point where I was on that one long enough. I was like, I wasn't feeling it. I'm just like, I don't know if I want to rant about this one in particular. It's just more of the same. Like the frustration for me is that just like he checked off everything on the Darth Dawkins box that I knew he was going to get. And I don't like to be that good a prophet about anything or predicting the actions of anyone. But I knew that if he eventually got this form right, and that was something that I think I may have told Tom Rabbit that, if he gets this form right, he's not going to acknowledge that he was ever wrong about it to begin with. He's just going to assert that everyone else was mistaken. Everybody else is making these claims, or they're making these basic mistakes, or they're assuming he's making these mistakes because they just can't logic with the best of them. And even though he's acknowledged he's not trained in quote unquote modal logic, which you don't have to be for this, he's still that sanctimonious and self-righteous and haughty about himself and prideful and allergic to failure that he doesn't even acknowledge the input that went in to getting him to just this point where he's only like 45% wrong now, like with the structure. And even then, after doing all that, after kind of demonstrating that he had a handle on it and he was getting them right, he does that goofy thing where it's like, oh yeah, I can do this where I affirm the consequent, but as long as I tack onto the, like, okay, if it's raining, the streets will be wet, the streets are wet, and it couldn't be anything other than rain. Therefore, like, no, man, no. This is why no one likes you, Darth. Like, stick to arguments from faith. Or go back to arguments from faith. That would be so much better for you. And yeah, everybody's saying like I should give Randolph a wrench, except for Carlton. Carlton is he's being kind of a contrarian on this one. It's interesting.
State them. There was a situation with Matt Slick and Alex Malpass where he nailed Matt Slick on one line of reasoning about the laws of logic. Okay, and Alex being proficient in modal logic, where Matt said either the laws of logic can be accounted for by God or not God, right?
Thank you. No direction. This is basic propositional logic that DD is fucking up. I never want to see him try his hand at alternative systems of logic because my fist will go through the screen. Yes, exactly.
And then he said, I think P2 was like, the laws of logic cannot ground the laws of logic, right? Therefore, God grounds the laws of logic. And Alex Malpass said, well, you're saying not God, right? Which was the same thing as God. But that's not what Matt Slick meant. Okay, so when he said not God, he wasn't negating not God. He was saying whatever not God is cannot ground the laws of logic. And
Jesus, is he having a stroke? I don't know. Yes. this part this part here really irritates me because I know what he's talking about. At least I think I do. I think I remember this. This goes back to when Malpass just basically, like, very politely and very gently just told Matt Slick that his particular take on a tag argument didn't work, and he showed why, right? and he went through it. And it's been a long time since I've watched it. I think that was 2 years ago or more. And it's very clean, very clear how he does it. And these guys have an issue with it. Darth seems to be coming here. Well, Alex Malpass thought that when he was saying not God, but that's not what Matt Slick meant. Alex fucking knew that. Ding dong. He knew that. He told him that the way it's constructed is invalid, because when you say not God in that kind of structure, you're just saying God. So if you mean to say something else, you're going to have to. Matt Slick needed to find a new way to say it. If this is the same situation, it was the one where Matt Slick and the other guy, because I think this was on. It might have been the Bible thumping wingnut show that Matt Slick was on, or that other one with another guy it was commonly on. They were both like, okay, well then you fix it for us. And Malpass is like, what? No, it's not my job to fix. I'm just pointing out this is you need to figure out how to argue this the right way, because what you want to say is not coming through. What you're saying instead is catastrophically flawed. Now, Darth seems to be like, well, that's not Slick's fault. That's not what Slick meant to do there. Well, it doesn't matter what he meant to do there. Malpass knew that that's not what he intended to say, but that's the consequence of how he said it.
Does everybody understand?
Yeah.
So there are two semantic.
Let's see here. I think Nicholas. That's what Matt Slick meant, not P. That's why Matt went and changed his argument, acknowledged the error, and made his argument worse. Yeah, I seem to recall he did. Like I said, it has been a while, but that whole episode was some classic YouTube. If anybody can go back and dig those up, yeah, I think that was actually some of the first times that Alex Malpass and Matt Slick kind of ended up in each other's orbit, and it was due to, I believe, the Bible thumping wingnut show. If it wasn't that one, it was another one that Slick was on all the time. I think the Bible thumping wingnut show had like alternating hosts. And that, because I'm thinking it wasn't the guy with the beard, kind of heavyset guy. It was a thinner guy with black hair.
Ways of understanding not God. Okay. The first one is what Alex was using. That the first not was simply negating the existence of not God, but that is not how Matt Slick was using it.
Yeah.
He was saying that whatever constitutes not God cannot ground the laws of logic.
No.
So he wasn't.
I don't. That might have been what he was trying to do, but he was doing it poorly, and the structure that he was attempting to do that with, it didn't work. That was Malpass's point.
Making the modal logic error that he was accusing Matt Slick of. He was simply capitalizing on the reducing it into a modal logic form, which.
Thanks. Yeah, if anybody's interested, I don't know if Bible thumping wingnut is still around, but those videos, I'm sure, if he's not around, they're still circulating. But yeah, if anybody's interested, that discussion between the host Matt Slick and Alex Malpass is gold.
It could have meant it was a hasty generalization, because not God can mean two different things,
Depending on the grammar. Yeah.
So when you only look at it as a mathematical equation, well, grammatical constructions are not the same as simple mathematical equations.
If you're constructing them in a syllogism, you are following inference rules, which you can reduce the structure down to variables, which should follow a structure, like a math, like a system of mathematics, right? That's what formal logic is. Propositional logic follows that structure. That's why there's an inference. That's why there are inference rules there in the first place, and that is why and how you can violate them. Like now he's just trying to say, well, yeah, sure, things can get confused with grammar. That's not the point. That's not the fucking point at all.
You can ask yourself, has that problem too? I don't know if you've had a conversation with him before.
Oh my gosh. You know what's sad is because he's a smart young man, and he's
interested
well
in
studied.
logic.
What's that?
And he's interested in logic too. I think
Yes. And I like that. And he's very articulate when it comes to express.
Oh no, you don't like that. You just said something that if Ask Yourself had been around for, I don't think he would probably have reacted to that well. Like, oh yeah, when you're talking about grammar and stuff like that, and you try to equate that to mathematics, that has nothing to do with anything. And if AY was probably, I mean, he wouldn't. I don't think he yells at people, but he'd be like, no, that's not it at all. he likes that he's into logic. No, that's bullshit. No, he doesn't.
Expressing, modal logic, but he's devious and he's deceptive. How do I know? Because I've engaged him on many occasions. Okay, and this is what certain philosophical types do. Is when they don't actually have an intellectual case, they will use their learning in philosophy and logic to verbally bamboozle their opponents, and they know they're doing it.
The next day.
So when Matt Slick said not God, he wasn't using that to be the negation of the not God world, equal meaning God. He was saying the not God world can't account for the laws of logic. Okay? So not God can mean two different things.
But not in that context, Dingus. Randolph says Darth Dawkins means that he likes what that he likes is when people are interested in Darth Dawkins' version of logic. Yeah, I think that's probably closer to it.
That's not true. Not God is God. It's the same thing. They're equivalent.
You're an idiot. You're a complete idiot. The way Matt was phrasing.
That's when you know. I mean, I don't know like why it triggered him to insult him that quickly in that way, but that I thought was funny. You're an idiot. You're just an idiot. No, the way that was being worded was in a constructed argument, a syllogistic argument that Matt Slick was proud of. And Malpass pointed out, like, no, that part right there, not God, is God. That doesn't work. That's all he was pointing. Like, I know what you think you're trying to say here. I think I know what you're trying to say here, but that doesn't get it. That doesn't do that. He's trying to say, like, no, it could mean other things. Not in that context. It couldn't.
It when he said not God, it was a truncated statement to mean that the not God world cannot account for the laws of logic. That's what he was referring to. So when he said not God,
right, but he tried to form it as a formal argument and put it in a syllogistic form, and Malpass broke it apart and was like, this doesn't work. That was all he pointed out to him. I don't believe this, and told him, like, if you want to try to make this argument, you're going to have to construct it differently. And I don't understand why Darth is struggling with this. He's just like, this is Darth's long-winded way of saying, no, Alex can't possibly be right about this. He must have been just assuming something bad about Matt Slick. Like, no. I mean, I think it was safe for Alex Malpass to assume that Matt Slick wasn't that great with logic when he took a look at that tag argument, and then he broke it apart. And turns out he was right.
God, it was a truncated expression that the not God meant that the not God world could not account for the laws of logic.
Well, if you want to say that, then what he's really saying is not B, C, D, E, F, G, all the other worldviews, and then you'll fall into the problem.
You understand the difference between univocal and equivocal?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, so not God in a response.
I'm getting really tired of hearing him say not. Ugh. I keep thinking that he's saying a knock joke. No Direction says the core mistake is using a dichotomy and a disjunctive syllogism. The structure will be such that you have to make a circular argument. We're watching a grown man struggling with double negatives. Yeah. That when I saw this, I almost put my head down on my desk when I was listening to it. I wouldn't say that I came close to tears because that's just too melodramatic. I can't sell that. But it was exhausting. This is exhausting listening to him talk about this. Not only because I think somewhere in the back of his mind, in his head, he has to know that he's he's on some thin ice here. Like, this is just, there's no point in talking about this the way he is. Like, just let it go, Darth. Just leave it, just drop it, right? Matt Slick is not getting that argument back from Alex Malpass. Alex Malpass took that, he crushed that naughty little pet of Matt Slick's. It's gone. It's over. Rest in peace, right? Revisiting that whole thing is not going to make anything better. It's just making you appear desperate and dumb.
If somebody is not being extremely precise, can be equivocal. It can mean more than one thing.
Okay, so if you want to say that it's the inductive, like, horn of the argument, then you need to give some kind of
No, what he's saying is, look, no, but the point what we're discussing is how Alex Malpass either knowingly or inadvertently could not see the equivocal notion of that expression where somebody who doesn't have a PhD in philosophy could see it. What was Alex's excuse?
I guess I see what you're saying, but
Nothing, because what you're trying to accuse Alex Malpass here is of not understanding what Matt Slick intended to say. But Matt Slick kept repeating himself over and over and over again in that conversation. If this is indeed the same one, and Malpass is like, great, yeah, I get your point. How you're wording it here in your argument doesn't work. What you want to say and how you're communicating it don't match. Because the way you're trying to communicate it here means something very different. It's broken. You need to fix it. You have to find a different way to get this across. Whether or not Malpass totally understood Matt Slick's intentions or totally understood everything that he was trying to get at doesn't matter. What he was trying to say was, this doesn't mean this. This doesn't follow this conclusion. Matt Slick, well, you understand what I mean by it. Well, okay, now that you've explained your background history at it, great. Structure's still wrong. It still doesn't work.
not thing means what it means in logic. So if you want to say that it actually means all the other worldviews that aren't Christian
Matt was not trying to argue with in terms of like modal logic. Okay, as
he was trying to argue with propositional logic, Darth Dawkins, and he fucked it up. He was trying to use propositional logic to make it sound like, because Matt Slick was one of these guys that thought that if you could construct a valid argument using propositional logic, it made it sound and therefore made it basically inescapable. Like if you could construct a valid argument for anything, the validity made it true in reality. I really do think that he and others were trying to chase this kind of bullshit. I think some of these YouTube apologists are doing that. Like if you can construct it in your head and it's valid, then it reflects on the mind of God and therefore it must be real or something. I don't know if any of them will admit to this, but I've heard some of them get dangerously close to saying that might be so. But here's the thing. That entire exchange between the two of them was about Matt Slick attempting to use propositional logic to make a strong argument for his God or to bolster his claims about it, and Malpass came along and broke it apart. So it didn't work the way he wanted to use it. If Matt Slick wants to use just anecdotal evidence or conversational English to explain how he thinks God works, then he should stick with that. As soon as he tried to use propositional logic, he invited in an analytical philosopher named Alex Malpass, who broke it, who took a look at it and was like, "Nope, you're logicking wrong. You can't hang with this, and you need to come up with something better. Or you need to go back to the drawing board because this is not how you do this." That's it. It's this idea like, well, that's not what Matt Slick. No, that is exactly what Matt Slick to do. He tried to do what a lot of ding-dong Christian apologists, especially online, do: co-opt logic to make what looks like the appearance of a bulletproof argument using a syllogism, as if that somehow gives it more credence, so he can stomp on people with it. And he got stomped on back, nicely and gently and politely. I mean, if you're going to have your logical syllogism torn apart by anybody, Malpass is the one that you want to do it because he's very pleasant about it.
Though rationales are expressed as mathematical formulas. Okay, so Matt, what semantically he meant by not God meant not God cannot account for the laws of logic, not the negation of the existence of not God, which would be God.
Okay, then it wouldn't be a true dichotomy if it's not the negation.
I'll be fine, Josiah. I'll shake this off in a little while.
What wouldn't be a dichotomy? No, you're not understanding. Okay, you're gonna have to go watch the video. Okay, and to see what Matt wrote. Okay,
so if you want to
hold on a second. I can't recall it precisely from memory, but the point is, Matt was contrasting the God world versus the not world God. Yep. God can account for the laws of logic. The not God cannot.
So you got to pick one or the other.
Listen to me. Hold on a second. Is the expression God can account for the laws of logic, right? And suppose we truncate it to God can. And then we have another expression that not God cannot. And suppose we truncate that into an imprecise way to not.
Is the audio cutting out just for me? Is it cutting out for anyone else? Anyone else? Let me know. Is it my mic or is it the audio playback? Anyway, let me know. I'll keep playing this.
Not God, not God. Alex Malpass was capitalizing on the truncated, imprecise representation, which he was
imprecise representation. Matt Slick tried to use propositional logic and failed hard doing it, right? And the appeal of using propositional logic was that I think Matt Slick gave his argument the veneer of inevitability, right? Nobody's going to be able to argue with this, flashy syllogism. Come at me, logic bros. And a logic bro got him, even though I wouldn't describe Alex Malpass as a logic bro or a philosophy bro, but he got him. He took that argument and he tore it apart, and that was it. That was that. Darth, it amazes me that this many years after the fact, Darth has still missed the main point of this. Matt Slick wanted to argue it this way, and the tool that he attempted to use in constructing his argument to bolster his argument didn't work. It's that simple, and not I don't think he's ever returned to it again. I know that he had some problems, kind of waffling on understanding what it was that I think it was like a day or two later. He was like, I don't know if Malpass was really right about that, but that I think he, like No Direction said, I think he attempted to adjust it anyway, and then made the argument even worse.
Undermining something that Matt wasn't communicating. When Matt said not God, what he meant was the not God world cannot. Okay?
Okay, so if you want to see the economy, it's got to be A or not A, right?
You're not understanding. It was not negating the entity of not God. What it was negating was the capacity of not God to account for the loss of logic.
Okay, so that's fine. Then that's the inductive way, right? So you're going to have to show a common property between all the not God worlds, right? So you'll fall to the problem of induction. It can't be done logically.
No, sir. They all have a common property that everything universally exists with independence from God.
Okay, so that's just not God then. That's the same as A or not A.
Right, but the point. Wow, are you obtuse?
No, you got to pick one or the other. It's either A or not A.
Dude, I'm really beginning.
I'm actually kind of surprised that this guy has to remind Darth Dawkins of either the A or not A, God or not God thing. I mean, I thought that was Darth Dawkins' bread and butter.
Need to suspect that you're a troll. Okay, and
he must be a troll because he's stealing from Darth Dawkins' toy box.
What's a good sign is when people start fast talking. Okay.
Fast talking.
What was?
I said the same thing when I saw it the first time. The same thing that cool guy did with fast talking. Was he fast talking?
The central idea that Matt was getting across. Did you watch the video?
I don't know what video you're referring to.
Okay, so you don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
Oh, I'm trying to speak and you're just interrupting me. So
no.
Does he need to, like, this is funny. This is the first guy that he's like, Darth has been going on this topic for a while without really actually questioning anybody on whether or not they've seen the video that he's talking about. And now this guy is like giving him some pushback on some of the things that he's trying to lay out there. Like, well, did you even see the video? No. I'm like, oh, then fuck off then. Wait, does he have to know that you're blowing shit out your ass as usual?
Oh no, but you're not familiar with Matt's. You're not familiar with Matt's original content, are you?
I mean, I didn't see the but I know the argument.
Good. So good. No. What was the point Matt was trying to get across?
He was trying to say that only the God world could account for intelligibility. He was trying to give the tag argument and then rule out through logical necessity all the other.
And so what he said when he said not God, was that intending to be the negation of the existence of the not God world?
Yeah, if you want to say it's a true dichotomy, it has to be.
No, wrong.
I don't think you want to
Wow.
listen.
You know
If don't
what? Okay,
fine.
you know what? You can fuck off.
I don't know what Darth's doing here anymore. I wish I could provide commentary other than to just. I mean, he's swearing a lot, which means he's losing it. So
Because it's clear to me that you're just bickering and you're not even
I think
listening
you
to
like
me.
it fucked off, so I guess you can just mute me.
You're dishonest. Okay.
If you want to have actual conversation, we can, but that's fine. No problem.
Oh, I want you know what? You're so full of shit. You're a troll. I'm trying to have a
No problem.
conversation with you, but you are bickering.
No, you keep talking over me. It's fine. I'll just go back to bed.
I'll just go back to bed. Like, so this gave me the impression like he wakes up, turns on Discord, hears this going on, jumps in, starts kind of like hitting Darth with some stuff that he clearly can't handle because now Darth's dropping F-bombs, which is a pretty good sign that Darth's being, he's running across things. Because I've noticed that when Darth starts swearing, it's usually around the same time that a person with normal emotional, decent emotional intelligence, and fairly normal social skills would ask clarifying questions. And rather than doing that, he just starts swearing at people.
Yeah, hit the road, Jack.
Yeah, let me know when you want to have an actual conversation.
Stop with the bullshitting. I'm 60 years old, which I tell people all the time. I wasn't born yesterday. I know when somebody's trolling. Okay. See, when people are trolling, they start rapid talking. They start multiple.
Did he say rabbit talking? I think that's a little bit of Tom Rabbit living rent free in that head up there.
Multiple times interrupting, which is what you were doing. Okay. You're not even familiar with Matt's original presentation. You didn't even listen to the interaction between Matt and Alec Malpass, but you're giving a commentary on it.
You interrupted.
He wasn't giving any commentary on it. He was challenging the claims you were making about what Matt's. Oh my God, dude.
Okay. Oh, I want you know what? You're so full of shit.
When I heard that initially, when I watched it the first time, I repeated that probably 8 times. Just listening, I'm like, oh my God, I should get something to capture this. For us, I don't make soundboards or anything like that, but it would be great on the soundboard. So the fact that Tom capped it with that, good work, sir. And he's in the live chat. Thank you for doing that, Tom. I hope to hear more of that stuttering, you're full of shit line from him. Speaking of which, there is, I don't know if anybody's, I've only been on for an hour and 12 minutes. Let me get into, I wasn't going to really cover this, but it was the one that, because Tom did his own commentary on this one. It was Tom Rabbit versus Darth Dawkins, number 6 with commentary. This is the one. I don't think I watched the last 3 minutes of this, but if anyone else is interested in watching this,
well, hopefully, next to record.
Let's be clear. Watching me watch this, I think I'll speed this one up just a little bit. Tom's commentary on this is good, so I wasn't really going to touch on this one because this one's already kind of self-contained. So any views that go to this one, Tom deserves them. But I think this one happened. I'm trying to remember how this one starts off, but hey, it's not important.
Hey, Tom Rabbit.
Okay, so I ran into Darth Dawkins this morning briefly. This guy was talking to him. He was kind of going the Pine Creek approach of, kind of just giving concessions. Yeah, you beat me, Darth. You've eviscerated my atheism, blah, blah, blah. And he had to do that in order to get to the end where Darth actually talks about his worldview. So I come in after Darth leaves, but let's listen to the tail end of this.
This isn't the atheism, and then we got to.
How do you know your God exists? By what mean?
I have sped this up to 1.25, only because this one's a little bit longer. I think it's only 24 minutes, but there's some weird back and forth here. But if anybody thinks this is too fast, let me know in the live chat. I'll slow it down.
By your reasoning.
No. How do you know your God exists?
Because of your reasoning. What do you mean?
No. Listen to me. I have to go in a minute, but I want you to stop playing like a child. How do you know your God exists?
Because of the reasoning provided to me by Darth Dawkins.
So you're going to be a child and you're not going to answer the question. We're dumb, no nuts. You've been totally eviscerated in this conversation, and I'll be back in about 10 minutes.
You've been totally eviscerated, numbnuts. Yeah, this is a person who says that he takes no pleasure in humiliating a.
Hey, is my breathing coming in over the mic? Am I wheezing into it like an asthmatic or something, or like a chubby guy? I am a chubby guy. I didn't think I was breathing into my mic. Anyway, let me know, folks. Don't. Well, most of you, I don't think would be hesitant to embarrass me. So let me have it in the live chat.
Atheists, no pleasure.
Darth Dawkins totally eviscerates Discord plugging. What a fuck. What a fucking asshole, cunt, motherfucker, boomer piece of human inane shit, dude.
So that guy's got some strong feelings about Darth. Wow. Don't hold back there.
That's a lot of
Well, you're just mad because that guy got blown out.
Yeah.
Dude, Darth pranked him, man. He made him answer his door, dude.
Glenn Serio breathing is nightmare fuel for me. Like I can hear that sometimes. Like it makes me nervous sometimes to be in my apartment alone at night. I try not to watch too many of those videos in a row. That guy is gross. If anyone has never seen Glenn Serio, the wannabe First Amendment, well, I don't know if anybody's a wannabe. He's a First Amendment auditor type, one of these guys that makes a nuisance of himself with his camera phone. Check him out. He's fucking awful. He's also in jail, I think. Or maybe not. Maybe they let him out. Not sure what his status is.
Yeah, and muted him. Yeah. And muted him if he said anything that didn't adhere to his dialogue, G, bro. I hate this guy so much.
Because that guy was clearly playing around and trolling. So.
Well, you're listening to him then.
Yeah, but meanwhile you're here. Like, did you not hear me?
Not wheezing, soft breaths, giggles. Okay. SPM, that I don't know why, but I shouldn't be doing soft breaths into the microphone either. That makes me feel like I'm still being kind of a perv.
In the background, when like every time Darth Dawkins would say something that blew him out.
Yeah. Do you think
Darth will talk to me about the Malpass argument again?
Yo, is Darth Dawkins there?
No, he stepped out.
I want to talk to him about
I'll take over.
Epicurean paradox.
I'll take over while he's gone. What do you guys want to ask me?
Did he talk to you about it again, Jeff?
No, I just woke up from a night shift.
I like how your voice cracked, bro.
I'm pretty sure Tom just kind of blows that thing off. Victory till the end. Want to hear how my interaction with Tone went later? Oh, definitely. Yeah, remind me if you're still here. I will post the link. I'll have you come in. We can do that offline. And then I would love to hear about that one.
Yeah. I think Darth messed up really bad though, because he said, I don't know if you guys caught it. He said a deist God cannot engage in revelation. Did you guys hear that?
Yeah.
Well,
I think you guys left a headshot on the table because Darth believes in something called general revelation. And that's revelation that like you see a rock and that God reveals himself in that. So a deist God creates everything and then fucks off. And so they would still engage in revelation.
Bro, who's lagging out?
Don't worry about them.
In the background.
Yeah.
So yeah, just to reiterate, Darth always says that God engages in natural and special revelation, right? Special revelation, things like, him talking directly to people, the Bible, and natural revelation is things like a fingernail, right? A rock. That's natural revelation. Well, if all this world is the doings of a deist God, then you would still have rocks and fingernails, right? And then be indicative of God, right? So Darth fucked up.
Exactly.
A deist God.
If it was good, Victory, because he said, actually, there's no reason why I can't do this. Hang on just a second. Sorry, folks, for the downtime. I'm just going to send Victory a link. All right, Victory. I sent you the link. I just DM'd it on your Discord. So if you want to jump in, let me know. I can put a pause on this if you want to give a rundown. If you want to do that live, I'd be interested in hearing it. If you don't want to do it live, just let me know. You don't have to jump on or anything. No pressure. However you want to do it.
God would still, you could still reveal a deist God through general revelation. So Darth Dawkins is wrong.
Yeah, I agree with Tom Rabbit there. In fact, I don't know why. I don't think that I've ever heard Darth Dawkins use that as sort of like a defeater to deistic gods. That a deistic God wouldn't be able to reveal itself in some way. That makes no sense. Like if it created everything, the general revelation is its thing. It's responsible for the creation of everything, and then just disappeared. It's revealed its nature in general revelation. It doesn't have a special revelation because now, I guess maybe Darth just dismisses that because, well, if it doesn't have the special, it can't have a special relationship with you. It can't be a personal God, and it's not actively sustaining its creation, which he believes his God does. I guess that's the defeater. It doesn't check all the boxes, so it doesn't check any of the boxes.
You have like 20 people in here like analyzing Darth Dawkins' every word.
We'll add that to these affirming the consequent problem as well.
Because it's fun.
Darth is an enigma, bro. Like, I want to know about his childhood. Get into the armchair psychology of why he feels the need to debate people on Discord 3 hours.
He's an old man, bro. He does what he needs to do, you know?
He's probably retired. He just does this.
He's never gonna really get into that.
How can something be timeless and affect time at the same time?
No, this guy. I mean, you guys see that this guy conceded X, Y, and Z, but look what happened after he conceded X, Y, and Z. You know, whether it was completely genuine or not, it doesn't really matter. What happens is afterwards, Darth had to lay out his argument, and it was shit.
Yeah.
Wait, so
like
since
the rest
his
of his
idea
arguments,
of
they're
a
all
God
shit.
happens to match Moses' God, then that's God. That's the reason.
Mamil grind set. I mean, like most people most people that are listening are just like, oh, point Dawkins, point Dawkins, oh, point Dawkins. He's getting wrecked, bro. Like I could just tell they're just like, okay, whatever. It's like, and it's just like that's why he calls him Sigma male, right? Because he's not concerned with this like sort of like debate bro crotch
Yeah,
chopping.
he's on the grind set.
So Darth is listening to all this, right? Because he's got AirPods or whatever, and so he's going to come running back to the computer to talk to me. And what
That's my favorite image when Tom mentioned that, because when I was watching this, I was thinking to myself, like, if Darth steps away from these things, and I've often wondered this with some of these, where he just steps away from whatever Discord thing he's in, like he's still got his headphones on. Does he still have his buds in? You know, his AirPods. I'm sure they're AirPods. So he's listening to this because it's a great opportunity to just step in there. You just show up in there and just like talk trash. And now I've got an idea. got a plan. Although I think when he's usually in these Discord servers, it's when I'm at work. I think so. I have a very small window, and I'd have to try to. It'd have to be like during my lunch break or something like that. And that's not usually what I want to do with my lunch break.
he had to say, he successfully got to the end of the script, and then the part where Darth Dawkins gives his rationale, which was shit, came. Good job.
Yeah. Can he do anything else besides these dialogue tree fucking?
You guys want to really, if you guys really want to, by the way, I always tell people this, and it never works because people don't use it, but he tries to present atheism and theism as a dichotomy, and if there's even one true fact that he asks you, do you believe that all facts reference God, and you say no, and then you say, okay, well then you're an atheist. But notice how he always asks that side of the dichotomy first.
Yeah, this is actually a pretty interesting point from Tom Rabbit here. Hey, Alistair, how's it going?
Hello?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm just making sure that you can hear me.
Oh, yeah.
It's going pretty good. I'm a little bit tired, but, that's what I get for staying all night arguing with John Lee on whether I know what I'm thinking is true or not.
You poor man. Why would you do that?
Me and Rapscuttle were basically just like, I don't believe atheists exist. And it's like, you can test that, though. Here's the definition. We subscribe to that definition. Thus, we exist. No, you could be lying to me. by your logic, then anybody can be lying to you about what their mental states are. So you might as well not trust a single word anyone says. No, that's not what I said. And that proceeded for like an hour. And then we finally got off topic on that. And then a Muslim came in and basically got to that. Oh yeah, you don't believe atheists don't exist. And then there was another 30-minute conversation about that. But
It's like, do you and John Lee share like opposite halves of of a pendant? Are you like?
I don't know. I don't know why.
No, I meant like the Muslim guy and John Lee. That's what I'd be asking him.
Oh
Like,
yeah,
you guys might have been like
hilarious
separated
how,
at birth.
like, they're at each other's throats, and then there's an atheist or an agnostic in the room, and then they're all of a sudden on the same team.
Well, they need to prove us skeptics wrong so they can get back to killing each other.
Yeah. Once they debunked us, then they can start debunking each other.
Right. Yeah, I feel like whether they like it or not, we are a civilizing influence.
Yeah. I mean, according to one guy, it's like, we should have a whole freaking one ideology unite thing, even though it's. But yeah, with that, I was gonna have a conversation. It was like 2 days ago, so I'm rusty on memory. But I was having a conversation in somebody's room. It was I think her name was Victoria or Veronica. Tone was a moderator there as well. And I went up there because I'm like, I really kind of don't want to deal with Tone today. And she's like, I'll moderate correctly. And I'm like, okay. And then it got into a weird debate, like a thing involving my own personal reasons. And then I let her talk, even though like Matt, Tim, and Tone are like, oh, that's irrelevant, blah, blah. Like they want to get to the logical stuff, which, I'm like, that's nice, Tone. No one cares. What were you saying now, Veronica? But it eventually got to a point. Now, I find it good as in the sense of it was entertaining. Now, I'm not the best at arguing with people. I'm kind of getting into that. Like, in fact, I finally discovered what my theory of truth, what the theory of truth I prescribe to is now, thanks to another person. But it got to a point eventually where she had to go to like get ready for church, right? And then Tone, as the only other moderator, takes over. And then he starts his whole little script. And remember, I don't exist in their worldview. I'm agnostic. I don't exist.
Oh yeah, right.
But one of the things that I've noticed that precepts would do with me, since they can't really hit that nail and I won't give it to them, is they'll start going into how you know anything and reality and truth. And then it's like, what's your ultimate? I'm like, I guess reality. And then it got to the whole thing of a difference between the objective truth of reality and how we perceive reality, which I'm like, I can perceive reality, but reality is not truth, because there could be a truth about reality that could be wrong, that could be correct, that I'm not perceiving or perceiving wrongly.
I always love it when one of those guys does that to somebody who has already told them or made it clear that they understand the distinction between ontology and epistemology, and they assert that, and we're like, yeah, I understand there's an issue with that.
But with reality, there's this one situation that made me just lose it. So Tone tried to bring up, by the way, I'm calling him every single one of his Discord names and his real name the whole time. Whenever he's freaking out, I'm like, blank, calm down, blank, calm down. And I'm just cycling through his Discord names and his actual name every time. But just like, Antonio, calm down. Tone, calm down. Tone Lot, calm down. 32-year-old, calm down. Like, I'm just cycling.
Yeah, 40-year-old virgin, stop. Abortion is murder, period, stop.
But he talks at one point, he said something along the lines of, I forget the correct word for this, but first he started with, let's say reality is a cube, and I'm like, okay. And he's like, can there be two cubes? Like, is it a set or not? And I'm like, I personally don't subscribe to the idea of more than one reality, but that's a possibility. Multiverse theory, And then he was like, are those two cubes? I forget the word. It started with a P, but it was basically the definition of it of like, is unique, different from each other, right? And I'm like, if there's the case that multiverse theory was true, then technically, yes, because there could be one universe where I'm still talking to you here, and there's another universe where I could have said, screw this guy, left, and made a sandwich. Those are two completely different scenarios in two different universes, so yes. And this conversation goes 15 to 30 minutes. We're not talking to each other properly. You want to know what the issue was, Jefferson?
Well, yeah, now.
When
Yeah.
when Tone was talking about 2 cubes, he literally meant is reality 2 cubes. He was not using the cubes as a metaphor. He was using it literally. And I thought he was using it as a metaphor.
Oh my god.
So
Okay.
the mediator's just like, you two are not getting anywhere. And I'm like, okay, what do you mean by 2 cubes then, Tone? I mean 2 cubes. You mean 2 literal cubes? Yes, I do.
Nobody told you about the 3 seashells? I mean, what on earth is that?
Then we get into the great truth of if is an apple truth. So, Alistair, what is your definition of truth? What is truth? Well, I'd say truth is what is the case. That's not substantive. What is truth? Truth is what is the case in reality. It is what it is. What happens to be the case is truth, by my definition of truth. Which later I find out that that's the corresponding theory of truth. But so we get hooked on that for a while at one point. And he's like, okay, you would say an apple's an apple, right? Yes. So is an apple truth? No. That makes no sense, though, because the truth is what is the case. You know, an apple is an apple. It is the case that an apple's an apple, so an apple's truth. No, Tone. The truth of the apple is that the apple is an apple. And this persisted repeatedly. And at one point, I'm just like, am I crazy or is he butchering this idea? Audience, please let me know. I got one person saying I'm an idiot. I got another person saying don't waste your time with Tone. And I got a third person saying, yeah, that guy's butchering everything.
I hate it when they go to fruits and vegetables for analogies or metaphors. Like, don't give me the produce aisle.
Oh yeah.
You know,
and I keep giving him the answer. He's not happy with the answer. He's saying it's not precise enough. So then that's where I tried to have him talk. And I'm like, okay, you're saying I'm wrong. And you're saying it's not precise enough. So thus, you have a better answer. You have a definition of truth that's more precise than mine and is better. What is it? That was my question. And he would not answer that to save the life of him.
No, because I don't think he knows. I mean, maybe somebody that he knows can tell him again, remind him, like, "Oh, you're it." You know, like Tone. Yeah, Tone is one of the worst because he's not. That is hilarious to me, though. The idea that he wasn't even really trucking with a metaphor, like, you know.
He literally meant a cube. When he said a cube, it was not supposed to represent reality. Not like we have 2 different cubes that are 2 different realities. No, we have 2 different cubes, and I'm like, a cube is not reality.
I'd have been like, are you talking about the one that like Matthew McConaughey was stuck in at the end of Interstellar, like a tesseract? Is that what the cube that you think is going on? Like, what are you doing here, man?
No.
And even that's not really a cube.
As I mentioned, this is not substantive, but it's entertaining.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, Tone.
But then Huey eventually comes up, and he's just like, okay, Alistair, so are you talking about the corresponding theory of truth? And I'm like, is that what that's me? Like, is that what that is? And he's like, what it sounds like, what you're saying is the case, but that is that. And I'm like, oh, huh. And then Tone just sort of be like, I'm talking to Alistair now, Huey, shut up. Okay, so do you prescribe that theory? Apparently I do, Tone. Apparently I do. Okay, how can you justify it compared to the other theory? No, wait, no, is there other theories of truth? And it's like, yeah, how is that the correct theory of truth? I don't know. Today I just found out that that's the theory of truth I prescribe to. And then he was just like, I got that. Shut up, Huey. I'm talking to Alistair.
I always wonder. I always worry about stuff like that because once they find out what your category is, then they're like, now you can't. You know, it's sort of like what they would do with like.
It's like he can defend his own thing. Now justify that, and I'm like, Tone. I just found out what this is today. I'm not capable of defending it well. Huey knows about this more than I do. It would make more sense for me to shut my mouth and you to talk to him. No, you're defending yourself, otherwise you can't defend it.
Well,
this goes on for a while, then I accuse him of being dishonest. Now,
Yeah, well, you made. I mean, the issue is like, and because Tone can't resist himself. Once you've said that, then there's an obvious weakness that he thinks that he can exploit. He's not going to give it up, right? He's got to do that for his Dark Lord and Master,
yeah,
Darth Dawkins.
and I hear, and I call him dishonest, and he just goes ultimately defensive. What question did I ask was dishonest? None of the questions, Tone. Your approach is dishonest. What question did I ask was dishonest? Your approach was dishonest. You want to know. And it gets into here, and I'd say it. I'm like explaining to him, okay, Tone, the reason why you're being dishonest is because you're picking to argue with a person for a straw man of the argument instead of somebody in the room that could give more of a steel man position on it.
Yeah, because
I just realized this, and now you're asking me to defend this. This person knows what that is more. In fact, the one that told me what it is. So if you want to be honest, you'll argue with the person that's more knowledgeable on the thing you're trying to argue against. And he kept going on. How am I being dishonest? This happens for 5 times in a row. And it gets to the point where I'm sick of it. Now, what is one thing Darth and his minions like to do, Jefferson? They like to force you to answer yes or no with no ambiguity. No
right, yeah.
So I reversed that on Tone because I'm like, okay, I am sick of this. I've answered your question on how you're dishonest 5 times. I will say it one more time. Now, Tone, before we get started, are you ready for me to tell you? Tell me how I'm being dishonest. Are you ready, Tone? Yes or no? Starts going on. Well, yes, I am, and you're not giving it to me. Tone. It's a yes or no answer. I've asked you a simple question. Yes or no? Are you ready for me to explain for the 6th time how you were dishonest? This proceeded to go 3 more times till eventually he's just like, fuck you, and then kicks me from the stage.
That sounds right.
He did not like that I used his own little trick reversed of just yes or no. And then, there's the whole Matt comes in, this other Christian comes in and just agrees with everything Tone says, and Tone's just like, oh yeah, he can't, he didn't answer why I was being dishonest and called me dishonest because he couldn't defend anything. And I'm just like,
yeah. Randolph says this is called limiting the scope of your interlocutor's answers. Trial lawyers use this successfully in courtrooms, and tricky debaters like to use it a lot too. Yeah, that's essentially what he was doing, because you're trying to be like, no, your entire approach to this is dishonest. I want you to point out one specific question. I was
correct, right? When I was saying his entire his approach was dishonest.
I would have then pointed out, like, this is an example of what I mean when I say your entire approach is dishonest. I've given you an answer, and you're insisting on me answering something that is not germane to I mean, look what you're doing. Look what you're trying to do here. Like, this is an example of why you're being dishonest, and you're like, just
it's like
ignorant
you're
as shit.
To have an argument with a straw man version of the argument instead of a steel man, because I can't defend the corresponding theory of truth if I just realized that my version of truth is the corresponding theory of truth. I just realized that. I don't know what that fully entails. I can't properly defend that there. Huey could, but every time Huey tried to talk, shut up, Huey, I'm talking to Alan. Like, he's a big boy. He can defend it. And I'm even here admitting I can't properly defend this. If I defend this, I'm going to get stomped because I'm not knowledgeable on this, because I just discovered this. This guy knows more about it than me. So, it's like, if you want to steel man the argument, like argue against the steel man in this room, Huey so far is the most knowledgeable on the thing you want to argue against. So you're being dishonest by fighting and arguing against a weaker version of it. Yeah, that's the journey of Tone and how he tried to convince me that an apple is truth.
The 2 cubes thing is still bouncing around in my mind. Yeah.
Everybody, I swear, all the mics when I'm muted, they were all just like, what? like, wait, you meant that literally?
I'm gonna start calling him that. And Antonio.
Christians that were in there that were literally like thinking, oh yes, Antonio is crushing the atheist with his logic and comparing reality to a cube by using metaphors in that scenario.
No.
Literal cubes. Wait, what?
From now on, I'm gonna call him Antonio 2 Cubes Fletcher. That's my name for him from here on out.
Oh yeah, he also brought up the Eiffel Tower thing as well.
Oh Lord, I wish.
Argument of, is it true that this there? And I should have retracted the statement of saying a truth of the Eiffel Tower is that it's standing in Paris. No, I should have answered, we perceive it to be true that the Eiffel Tower is standing in Paris. But oh well. This is like, I haven't interacted with them or properly got into debates for like a long time. And then I just said, screw it, I'm going to deal with this. I have a moderator that can try to keep Tone Lock in check, which she did keep him in check till she had to go. Like, don't try to call, no, calm down. Like, she kept him in check.
Yeah, somebody has to be there to soothe him, to say shush, shush, hush now, keep him.
And I guess 2 days ago, I just felt like being masochistic. Been like, Tone Lock's up there, you know what? I'm going to talk to him. And then last morning, I'm gonna talk to John Lee. Let's see what happens. Luckily, I had Rab Scuttle from Discord. He has Clubhouse now apparently because he joined in, and we were 2-manning John. And then the 30 minutes were gone. We changed the topic. Muslim comes in, then 2v2 smackdown. Muslim and John versus me and Rab Scuttle on what we believe.
Does Rab Scuttle have a different username?
It's still Rab Scuttle.
Oh, okay.
It's the same profile picture, the rabbit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't. Yeah, I've been seeing him a lot. He's been on there. He's been on Clubhouse quite a bit. I keep getting notifications. Keep seeing his name.
Yeah, and I joined in earlier. Oh, it's this one.
All right. Well, yeah. Thanks for that. Thanks for that story. I love a good Antonio story. God, that guy's weird.
As I said, it was not intelligible at all, but it was entertaining.
Yeah.
It was the biggest waste of 3 hours of my life, but
I can't believe you did it for 3 hours, but I kind of
laughed my ass off after.
I kind of can. I've gotten sucked into those before. It's been a long time since I've. Anyway, do you want to stick around while I review this one?
Stick around for a little. Why not?
All right. Okay. I'm going to keep playing this one. See if we can get something good here.
But according to Darth, the logic is if you reject one part of the dichotomy, then you're the other side. So why doesn't anybody say, do you reject not God? And most people here who claim to be atheists aren't even atheists, they're agnostics. And they would answer no to that also. So by Darth's rationale, that would make them a theist.
I hope that was clear enough, but the reason Darth asked it that way is because he is his main objective is just to try and get them to have some kind of burden of proof. You can't do that if you're agnostic, right? So he'll never ask you, okay, do you affirm not God? Most of the atheists or agnostics are going to say no. But by his reasoning, then you're a theist. So he always asks, do you affirm theism? And then they say no. And then they say, okay, you're an atheist. So now you got to prove that, right? But he'll never ask it the other way around. And you guys listening, whenever you hear that, you should just press him and say, hey, ask me the other end too. Ask me the other side first.
But I've asked this of several of his minions, but if you really want to throw Darth for a loop, ask him why all the specific properties that he lists for the Christian God are necessary for intelligibility. And I'll just give you my example that I've given all of his minions, and they've all completely failed to give a response to, right? So this is actually Darth's position. A man is crawling, dying.
You just muted yourself, or you got
no? I can't believe any
homeboy.
I can't believe how any of these guys. Like, clearly Darth is back. Like, maybe see these guys didn't know the history.
He wasn't back. If you find out later, he wasn't back. He never left.
Oh God.
He had his headset in the entire time.
Oh yeah, but I mean, he was muted.
Himself, and he was listening. But he hears Tom Rabbit start talking. It's just like, no.
Yeah, Yeah, as soon as but I mean he'd been talking for a while, so my guess is he was away from his keyboard. But as soon as he got back, click.
It's just like Tom Rabbit. Nope.
Kinda
Oh
wonder-
no, I might be debunked.
I wonder like how much he grinds his teeth when he hears Tom Rabbit talking like that. Like, but this is the trick. This is the thing to do. I think Tom Rabbit's onto something.
Oh,
If you're
yeah,
in one of these things, you wait.
Brilliant.
If you got to catch a window where Darth has to step away to get a cup of coffee or change his diaper or whatever it is that he does. Check
Get his breakfast. Eat his
Yeah.
morning pills.
Yeah, I think there's probably a lot of medication he should be on that he's not taking. But anyway, but yeah, you get that gap in there, then you just jump in there and just run wild on him as much as you can.
Yeah, I just liked how Tom earlier had mentioned how Darth only asked that one question against agnostics, and I thought to myself, oh, there's AJ. Pre-sup is the late night infomercial of Apologetics. It's a solution to a problem invented by the people trying to sell you the solution.
Yeah, it's not bad.
But I like how I never thought of this because I'm agnostic overall towards the idea of a God. I'm just atheistic towards the God concepts presented to me. So I never thought about this approach of when Darth is just like, do you believe in God? No, you're in the indirect denial. I never thought of reversing of you're going to ask me the other question of do I not believe in God? Because I'm like, no, I don't believe God exists. I don't believe he doesn't exist. Darth never turns that around because by that definition, I'd be a theist. And if he asks both of them, then I'm a theist and an atheist, and that's contradictory.
But that's that really is the trick, right? Because if he asks you do you affirm that God is real, that God exists, and you say no, then as far as he's concerned, what logically follows is you must affirm implicitly or explicitly the opposite of it, which because he doesn't believe that agnosticism is real, right?
Yeah,
So
it screws his God over.
Right, yeah.
It's a revelatory God. God has revealed through general and special revelation that he exists to everyone. So
which
by
doesn't
me saying I don't even if I see the supposed revelation, I don't know if God actually exists. That completely shuts down his whole entire argument. Because he's arguing for a revelatory God.
I'm still consumed by mind controlling worms. Yeah, I was actually a guest on Answers in Atheism earlier before I went live, and they were playing that the video talking about that guy with his mind controlling worms argument for God. Bonkers, absolutely bonkers.
I've never heard that.
It's so weird. Randolph, if you can if you want to share the link for your video in the live chat for people, they want to go and check that one out. That I don't know what the timestamp is for that one. Yeah, it's Looney Tunes.
So Darth just came back and muted.
Yeah, it's worth listening to a little bit. It goes back and forth for a little bit. The guy is wacky.
Maybe before I could finish the hypothetical.
Oh shit!
Was that Tom Rabbit?
I'm guessing he
Darth
got
probably
muted.
got him.
Yep, Darth.
Yeah, Darth probably got him.
What's up, Tom Rabbit?
They knew too much.
And so I'm sure Darth has heard this before, right? But I've asked this question to Jay Dyer, Matt Yester, Jay Robin, and Anton Locke, and none of them have been able to come up with an answer to why the trait specifically of being always truth revealing is necessary for intelligibility. And I have numerous recordings that I can get where Darth very proudly and explicitly states that every single one of those properties is necessary to have intelligibility. And so since I couldn't finish the example, I'll just tell it to you guys. Basically, my hypothetical that I came up with is that a man is crawling in the Sahara Desert. He is about to die of thirst and starvation, right? Seconds before he dies, God whispers in his ear, "There's an even number of hydrogen atoms in the universe." When in actuality, there is an odd number of hydrogen atoms in the universe. God has told this person a lie. He then dies. No one knows about it. Nothing, right? Now, according to Darth and Team Darth and his minions, if this were to happen to any God concept, we don't even have to be talking about the Christian God, right? We can just be talking about this God I'm positing. Now, the next instant, on the other side of the world, in New York, a man orders a club sandwich, right? And because he lied to that dying man about the number of hydrogen atoms, according to Darth, the waitress now hears, wah, 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 wah. It's unintelligible. Now, I've asked them how the fuck this makes any sense.
A good question. Alpha says, now that Darth slithered back to PNR, does that mean he brought his attack dog plugin with him? An interesting question. The thing is, Darth, as far as I know, Darth has not slithered back to politics and religion.
As far as I know of, he's on
the politics server, which is run by a guy named Doobie. And it is a different.
Sorry, you might recognize from Venus Tooth's Christmas collection. You know, Doobie's a freaking a-hole. Which is interesting because Darth, last time I checked, did not really like Doobie. So it's weird that he kind of went to there, in my opinion, at least.
YouTube link timestamp to 45 minutes 57 seconds to the part where Jason talks about parasitic worms to try to prove a god exists. It's bonkers. So yeah, enjoy that, folks.
That's something for me to watch later.
Yeah.
And none of them have been able to give an answer. Some of them have been able to say, well, then you wouldn't know what was true and what's a lie. Lies are still intelligible too. If I tell you that there's a 24-hour McDonald's on the moon, that's a lie, but that's still intelligible. So here comes Darth. He did not want to have this conversation.
Silence him.
Like, I think Darth is scouting out.
Yeah. So the idea is a man is crawling on the Sahara Desert.
You can shut up, okay? You're not anywhere near as smart as you think you are.
I heard you saying that you answer questions.
If you overtalk me, I will server mute you. I will kick you from the room, and you won't get back in here again. You're not even supposed to be on this server.
So right now, Darth is creating his own escape hatch, right? He wants to set up the rules in a way where any infraction, which would be permissible by anyone else, maybe, he's going to use it. So I have to be really, really careful. I have to try and be well behaved here in order to stay and get to the end of my question. If I want to get my question answered by Darth, I'm going to have to because I'm in his room.
Your other account was banned, right?
No, it wasn't.
Yeah, it was. I was told that it was banned.
Well, then they. I'm sorry, but they lied.
Okay. Oh, they lied to me. Good. Then we'll work that out.
They're lied to you. Or they're mistaken.
Tell me how the presentation of the Christian worldview is shit.
Okay, sure. So you say, as I was telling everyone else in this room, right? You say that the Christian God necessarily has X, Y, Z property, and those are omnibenevolence, omnipotence, omniscience, always truth revealing. Let's see. There's a few other ones, right?
If you don't get to the point quickly, I'm going to
get to the point in less than 30 seconds.
Like the pimple that you are.
Yeah, this says the guy that has been waxing long and in drawn out ways in like butchering inference rules. He can talk for hours about how he wasn't wrong to begin with, even after making corrections, which are demonstrable and noticeable. This is a guy who, despite no matter how long he talks, anyone else talks for longer than 6 seconds is immediately tiring him out, right? Like you're taxing his patience. Like, dude, the dude's got the patience of a hyperactive house cat.
Give me 30
Remember,
seconds.
he's just a poor 60-year-old man, Jefferson. Okay.
Yeah, but he has the self-control. His self-control is just so bad.
He's proud of that too. He's proud that he's 60. He always lets everybody know.
But it's weird because he's like that guy, everybody like, the guy or the girl that never get any older than 29. He's never getting any older than 60. Like that seems to be the magic number for him. Like, I'm sure by now he's like 65.
He goes by tens, Jefferson. So like in like 5 to 9 more years, he'll be like, I'm 70 years old. I'm old enough to be your grandpa.
I get my mom allows me a birthday once every decade.
Once every decade, I just shoot up. I was 0, then I was 10, then I was 20. That's how it works now. There's nothing in between. Teen years, what are those? Those don't exist.
Those are all logically necessary for intelligibility. So I'll be done in 30 seconds.
I did not say logically.
Well, you said necessary.
Okay, listen, stop putting words in my mouth. Second warning.
So he's just very, very agitated. He's doing everything that he can to prevent me from even having 30 seconds to present my case. That's all I'm asking for.
If you don't get to the point,
I just need 30 seconds.
What I want to hear out of your mouth, in order to refute a worldview, you're going to need to be standing up and speaking out of a worldview. What is your worldview?
See, now he started. So before he asked Tom, why is my presentation of the Christian worldview shit? And Tom started to get into that. Now he's interrupted him, and he's impatient. He doesn't want to hear that anymore. And now he's like, okay, if you're going to present that, you need to tell me what your worldview is first, so I can take a crack at that, show how that's bad, and then you won't be able to do an internal critique of my worldview. This is bullshit for two reasons. One, all that is you're setting up the other person for what you're going to do, which is a genetic fallacy. How does it follow that if that person's worldview contains philosophies or things that you don't agree with or don't work or somehow in conflict with something or have unanswered questions, it therefore follows that person can't be right if they're doing an internal critique of your own worldview? It doesn't. The only thing that you could say is, well, if you're wrong about that stuff in your worldview, you can't possibly accurately critique my worldview. Therefore, I don't have to listen to anything you say. That is justifying a genetic fallacy, and that is horseshit. Second, Darth doesn't believe that there's such thing as multiple worldviews. He says there's multiple worldviews, but it's pretty clear from all of his arguments that there aren't. The only time he does this with this multiple worldview stuff is when he wants to set someone up with a genetic fallacy.
Just
your
like
world,
the whole you don't understand anything. Sorry, I
Yep.
thought you were done. It's that whole thing of like you people have tried before with Darth to go, well, you don't believe in another worldview. From your point of view, we're all operating in the Christian God worldview. So there's the grounding for reasoning. Now can we talk? And
Right.
Darth won't allow that to happen.
Mm-hmm.
He will keep drilling you over and over, only interrogate you till eventually it's just like he can dismiss you.
And the evidence for this is apparent from what Tom Rabbit brought up at the beginning of this video when he says, okay, if Darth asks you, do you affirm the existence of God, and you say that you don't, then he's going to label you an atheist, whether you want to claim that you're an agnostic or not, because your worldview, according to him, must be the atheist worldview, because from his worldview, there are only two worldviews, quote unquote. His one and then the wrong one, which is the atheist worldview. But that's not actually the God or not God worldview. That is not actually what he thinks, though, because based on how that follows, right? Like if you said, I affirm a not God worldview, that would make that person a theist. That that sort of tracks, right? Like this person's like saying, well, I affirm this view. Okay, well, it's not that he's at that point, this agnostic, which Darth does not want to admit exists, right? There's just God and not God. He'll hold that out just long enough to attempt to ridicule or poke holes in what this person's worldview is, whatever it is, a theory of evolution, their politics, their personal reactions to last week's episode of SNL. And then when you get into the rest of the argument, it's pretty clear that the only possible worldview in Darth's mind is the one that God reveals to us all. That's why you can't be an agnostic. You can only deny God. But in order to deny God in Darth's worldview, according to his obsession with Paul and Romans, is to suppress the truth and unrighteousness, which is something you do from within his worldview. So this is just bullshit in two directions.
I don't exist. You're talking to nothing. It's just you talking to yourself in the audience. Remember, I don't exist. Hi.
Sorry.
I don't exist. Darth, the supreme leader of all logic, that is never wrong, says agnostics don't exist. So I'm just a voice in yours and multiple people's head, Jeff.
Well, no, that's the problem. From your not God worldview, you're telling yourself that you're an agnostic, but that's not actually it.
Listen,
Darth is here.
I've had like a 2-hour conversation with John and a Muslim about them saying that my mental state is not what I say it is, and
right.
I'm lying to myself and everyone. I don't want to have even another minute of that conversation.
Right. But what I think is funny about that is like he's going to step up and say, no, actually what you are, according to my worldview, is you're someone who claims to affirm a not God worldview, which in his theological claims, again, from within his worldview, are that, well, according to the book of Romans written by the Apostle Paul, everyone knows that there's a God. It's just that some suppress the truth of that in their own righteousness. Fantastic. My worldview, that God and those stories are made up. So Darth can come get me, right?
He always seems to try to critique people based on his worldview and not their own standards.
Right, and then when they start asking him questions, which he volunteered, he offered essentially, like, you tell me why my presentation of my Christian worldview is shit, and Tom gets into it, and then nope, he's got to derail that and be like, you tell me now what your worldview is, so I can tell you how it's shit.
Because he realized that he opened the door to be criticized, and Darth will not have that because every time he's been criticized, it never worked for him.
Yeah,
every time somebody was able to dig into his worldview, it never worked for Darth, and it ended up with Darth getting pissed and kicking them off or muting them.
I'm actually hoping there's an argument that I saw. I think it might be between him and Randolph Richardson, but I'm trying to. I need to dig it up because I'm not sure if I can share it. And I was going to ask Randolph before I did, but I'm hoping to do that one, maybe cover that one this coming weekend. But there's a point in that particular argument where he keeps going back and forth because Randolph he stands his ground on his status, I think, as an agnostic, right? He's not affirming, that there is no God, he's just, he doesn't believe that there is one. And Randolph, you can correct me if I'm wrong about your stance. If I'm getting that wrong, I deserve to be punished. Anyway, but in that conversation, and in conversations I've heard with him before, it's really hard, from question to question, it's hard to know when Darth is talking about something within his worldview or something that he's insisting must be Randolph's worldview. And when I was watching it, I came to this epiphany. I'm like, oh, I see what he's doing there. Like, you really can't tell which one he's criticizing at which point. Sometimes he asks a question, and the only way it makes sense is if you assume he's asking a question from the perspective of his own Darth Dawkins idiosyncratic worldview. But then there are other times he'll ask a challenging question to somebody he's talking to, and the only way that you could answer that, right, like it's difficult to know. Is he talking about, does he mean that from my worldview, or is he talking about what that means in his worldview? If you give him, you have to acknowledge that you have a different worldview, otherwise he'll get pissed. But then when he asks you questions about how he defines God must be this way and not that way, right? He must be this ultimate mind that's responsible for creating everything, right? And then you have to acknowledge that. If you don't, he gets frustrated and just repeats the question over and over again until you do. Like he's literally forcing you into his worldview. All you have to do is stand back and say, in your worldview, that God is an ultimate mind responsible for the creation of all things. In my worldview, that is a story that is made up by men. So when he says, well, isn't it conceivable that God is that it's possible for that God to create all of reality? No, because it's a made up story. It's a made up concept. Man-made.
Exactly.
If you stick to that part, you cannot go any further in the conversation. He can do nothing to you if you stick to your worldview.
He'll also conflate the Christian God with his own creator being. There'd be times where he would basically be talking about, he'd be talking about the Christian God, and then you point that out to him. No, I'm not talking about the Christian God. I'm talking about what is fundamental and ultimate, that is a mind that dictates what is, can, and will be. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about this. And then you try to, jab at that, and then he tries to switch it back to the Christian God.
Mhm.
Which is like, nope, it's now the Unitarian God now. You come at him again, nope, it's now the mind again.
Yeah, Randolph. Yeah, I would like to. If you'd like to do that sometime this weekend, if you happen to have time, we could do that on like others. Maybe Friday night my time, Friday night Eastern Standard Time, going into or Saturday or Sunday. I don't have anything scheduled over the weekend, so if you wanted to do something, then it's the one that you sent me. It's probably the one that I'm going to watch it again, but it's the one that you sent me. Your conversation between you and Darth Dawkins that Supreme Leader Streams recorded, because it got the recorded audio. I was going to go through that one again. There's actually stuff from the one that you sent me before that you had recorded, but it's a little hard to make out, and I don't know if streaming it people will be able to hear it clearly. But that's when I started noticing clearly what he was, especially with you. I should have noticed it the last time you guys had a conversation, but I noticed it especially in that latest one that he kept. It was very hard. I would rewind it, and I'm like, okay, that question sounds like he's talking about his worldview. Next question, he could be talking about either of your worldview, and then like a third or fourth question later, that question's intended for Randolph's worldview, another person's worldview, because that's not something that Darth Dawkins believes in. It's really, really sloppy, and given the way he handles logic, it's easy to see how he does that shit. So, all right, here we go.
So now he's shifted the question. The question was originally, tell me why my presentation of the Christian worldview is shit, right? And I am doing that, and I would outline the hypothetical that I just gave to you guys, right? But he surely must know about this because I've asked all his minions. He's heard it before, and I'm sure he has no answer himself. So now he's shifting to just nuking the conversation from orbit, and he wants to talk about like basis for logic or something like that. It's just really irrelevant because I think I can reason. And if you look at Darth and I's interaction number 3, I even say to him, look, this is all actually irrelevant because you think I can reason. I think I can reason. We both agree on logic, so this doesn't matter. And then I even asked him in that call, I said, Darth, do you think I can reason? And he wouldn't answer the question because it's just a tactic. So the example is a man is crawling in the desert in the Sahara. He's dying of thirst.
Let's stop.
I'm answering your first question.
Listen to me, little man-child. A man who's a loser, who you have nothing better than to do is than to secretly record people so you can earn some beer or marijuana money on your channel. You're a loser of a human being.
Hominem, Darth.
Now, given that that's true, you're not answering my question. I want a clear, circumspect refutation of the Christian worldview, but you can only do so by virtue of your worldview. Okay? Now,
no, this is an internal critique.
It doesn't. No, you don't understand. In order to do an internal critique of a worldview, another worldview, there's going to have to be some worldview basis to reason. Isn't that correct?
Sure, but we can both agree.
Do you have a basis to reason? I'm not.
That's actually not what Darth believes. It's different. It's more than that, right? It almost sounds like what Darth is trying to get away with is if you're going to critique my worldview, then it's necessary for you to have a worldview of your own. But that's not what Darth is going to say. What Darth is going to say, if you have any grounds to criticize my worldview, you have to have a worldview that is unassailably perfect, that I cannot reason against, that no one could possibly argue against. That doesn't make any sense, and that doesn't hold up. I want to know why Darth thinks that that's even a thing. Because if that's the case, and I have a worldview. And I think for the most part that it's internally consistent for the most part. And I'm talking with a Christian like Darth Dawkins. And he's like, well, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to tell you that you as an atheist, you have an inconsistent, incoherent, catastrophic worldview. All right, prove it. And then what is it? You don't have anything to ground anything on. You don't have a God in it. That's not an internal critique. All you're saying is my worldview is not Darth's worldview. It's not a Christian worldview.
It has to be Christian with Darth, because he does this with like Muslims as well, in the sense of like, okay, let's look into your belief of God. Your version of God is wrong. Like, he won't allow you to inner critique his thing unless if you're a Christian. But if you're a Christian, then he'll be the point of, well, you agree with me, or you're just like the Muslims and the atheists. And so, we have to take a shot at your beliefs first before we talk about mine.
Yeah. And that's what I think is that's what I think is sleazy about this idea, is this idea like, no, before you can come after my Christian worldview, you need to make sure that yours is perfect and absolutely without flaw. That does not make any sense, because what you're essentially saying is, I'm a Christian and this is a Christian worldview, and the only way that you can pick it apart is if you're omniscient.
I wonder what it would be like if somebody were to fire that back at him, being like, no, let's talk about yours first. We'll get to mine, Darth.
Yeah,
we'll probably end with Darth kicking them, but it would still be interesting. Just the same tactic back.
If all things were equal,
infallible, and
yeah,
then we'll talk about mine.
If all worldviews are equal, right, then it shouldn't matter which one that we're trying to assail. Then it sounds to me like the only way that you can come after my worldview, then my not God worldview, however you want to call that, then that means you better be omniscient.
Well,
because that's the claim he's putting on me. Like, you can come after my Christian worldview as soon as I evaluate your worldview, and if I see anything in there, if I see something like, what's he looking for? He's looking for epistemological limitations. A not God worldview is not going to have a solution to the hard problem of solipsism. That's just not a thing. The Christian worldview doesn't have that either. It just has an assertion that they don't need to worry about it because God created everybody and things are going to work out okay. Right? But that's internally it doesn't work, but they just assume that they just assert that it does. So the standard that everyone other than a Christian is being held to is that you have to be omniscient in order to tell a Christian that they're wrong. That is megalomaniacal, sanctimonious, self-righteous horseshit.
I'm angry. I am just simply being forceful in the way I talk.
I'm not angry. I'm being forceful. I'm not rude. I'm assertive. I'm not this. I'm that. Always with Darth.
Now, if you want to be the asshole that you usually are, a teenager trapped in an adult body, I'll treat you as such. You want to play this little game. Now, you told me, hold on a second while I mute that asshole, okay? Now, you told me, okay, do you have a basis to reason in order to do an internal critique of another worldview?
Yeah, that would be the Christian or
No, sir. Listen, do you have a basis within your worldview to reason in order?
At this point, it becomes clear that Darth is absolutely terrified. He's absolutely terrified, and he's not. This is the termination of the conversation. I pretty much gathered that he's going to rest his flag on this, and he's only going to want to talk about how do you reason that you can reason, or blah blah blah. He wants to talk about. He won't ever let me say what I was going to say. He won't ever let me do it. So this is just endgame for me.
To internally critique another worldview.
Yes, I'm doing it from a view where the properties X, Y, and Z are necessary for intelligibility.
Okay, so you can reason by virtue of your worldview. Is that correct?
I don't see how that's relevant. I'm talking.
Okay. I want everyone to notice.
Can I just give you an example?
If you overtalk me, I will kick you from the room. I am simply doing this to show you what a fraud you are. Now, does your worldview provide a basis for reason at all in order to critique anything else, including do an internal critique of other worldviews?
That's not a legitimate question, because Darth doesn't care what someone asserts as their basis for reason. It won't matter what they say. If they say anything other than the Christian God, then they don't have a basis for reason. So if he believes in this idea, because he's always going to assert an external critique on the not God worldview that he thinks is out there. But that is the bullshit here. That worldview cannot exist. It's not in it. You can't have multiple worldviews. They're not entailed by the existence of his God. That God reveals itself in a way that we know him to be true. There's only one worldview, the Christian worldview, the worldview that Darth Dawkins believes in. Holding someone to this account and trying to say, you need to now justify your other worldview. This is dishonest and irrational and contradictory. There isn't another worldview for them to justify. Like, I can't believe that this guy's his argument over the years has just gotten worse and worse and worse. Now it's fucking itself to death in front of everyone, and he's too old and senile to realize it.
No, it doesn't. Can I just give you my example now?
Okay, we're done. Thank you. We're done. He just admitted that his worldview doesn't have a basis.
So I kind of knew where it was going, and so I attempted the same play that Sigma Male attempted previously, which is which is to just give him what he wants, so he can win this little skirmish if that means that I can win the battle, the war. But I don't think it was going to turn out well for me in either case. And now Darth goes on and on about how this was like a really genuine answer and stuff like that. So it's just kind of silly.
For reason, but then he wants to proceed and reason about another worldview. He just admitted his worldview doesn't have grounds for reason. And this
Did you hear that, Alistair? Tom Rabbit admitted that his worldview had no grounds for reason. Did you hear him admit that? I think Alistair probably stepped.
Sorry, bump at door. Making sure I was up because I was basically being like, I'm kind of sleepy. I need to take a little bit of a nap, and then that there. But I'm up. What did you say? Repeat.
He said that Tom Rabbit admitted that his worldview doesn't have a grounds for reason in it.
I did hear him say that. Yes, I did hear Darth say that.
Tom Rabbit didn't have enough time to say that. Darth Dawkins didn't
let him. It's again the thing that I fired back at Antonio. It's the thing if they want a yes or no, they don't want you to delve into that at all.
Yeah, and if they want a yes or no question that leads to that, they're asking loaded questions.
Yeah, if he were to try to explain of like, well, technically yes or no, but either way that's irrelevant because you asked me a question before, you asked me this. I'm trying to answer your first question. You did not let me. Loaded question, that's trying to rabbit trail, yes or no. And so that's where Tom's just like, you know what, I'll give him what he wants, and either I'm going to get booted or I'm going to be able to actually finally address his first question, and it ended up with being booted.
Yep.
This hemorrhoid claims that my presentation of the Christian worldview was shit, which is allegedly a product of reason. But he just admitted his worldview doesn't have a basis for reason. Did we all hear that?
Actually, he did not admit that. You asked him.
Hold on a second.
Darth asked him
Did
that.
we not hear that 14-year-old trapped in an adult man's body just say he doesn't have a basis in his worldview for reason? Was I hearing things?
I heard it.
I heard.
Then you're both hearing things. He didn't say that. What the fuck? He did not actually say that.
There.
No, he didn't say that. Like, oh, you admitted that.
Like, he said no in a very sarcastic way to try to get to move on.
Right.
And Tom did not say that your worldview was shit, Darth. You came to Tom first and was like, why is my worldview shit? And then when Tom tried to talk to you about why he thinks that might be the case, you got tired of it and moved on to try to critique his worldview and stop him from critiquing yours because you know that you legitimately can't properly defend your worldview.
And this is the thing that I find fascinating with him. This is the guy that he's the troll stopper, right? Like a troll can't get by Darth Dawkins. He's just too savvy for him.
You mean everyone?
Yeah, literally everybody.
Everyone besides everybody that licks his boots,
Yeah.
Everybody else is a troll. 7 people aren't a troll, but the rest of the world is.
But when Tom answers a question like that, where it's clear that he's just saying no because he wants to move things along, because he knows Darth Dawkins is trying to derail things, Darth doesn't pick up on that and bites down on that thing. He's just like a little kid. Like, do you see what he did? You see what he did? Like, yeah, he was kind of shining you on with that, man. And now you unironically grabbing onto it like you caught him in a blatant lie is more cringe than anything that you've done so far. Like,
it literally shows this time as I watch these, it just makes me realize more and more that Tone Lock is a less smart diet version of Darth. Like, it just happens more because Tone does this stuff, but at a way worse scale in the sense of he's way more cringy.
Yeah, way more. Yeah.
Heard it.
There's an upload. He won't be able to put on his channel.
Right. Are you recording this, Truth Speller?
It's hilarious that it's on the channel.
No, I don't think I'm allowed to in here. I never was.
Why wouldn't I upload this to my channel? It's the perfect example of Darth being absolutely terrified, and nobody with any sense thinks that like my answer was like anything but sarcastic or just trying to advance to the next level.
Yep.
Oh, okay. Well, hopefully, this loser who's probably not gainfully employed because he's on recording at all times and tries to, he steals my content and uploads it to YouTube because he can't provide his own content. We heard out of this hemorrhoid's mouth that Darth's presentation.
This guy's so mad, man. By the way, for the record, you can notice that I didn't insult him at all because I didn't need insults, right? All I wanted to do was talk about my argument. And Darth needs this stuff, right? Darth needs this stuff. I don't need this stuff.
Of the Christian worldview was shit. But in order to determine that it's shit, he would have to at least implicitly claim that he has the capacity to reason. I just asked him, does your worldview provide you with the prerequisites to reason? And he said no. We all heard him say this. So
yeah, sarcastically.
Sarcastically.
You doofus. You fucking doofus. Like, how much more cringe can he get on this thing? Like,
and
this
again, he did not attack you by saying your worldview is shit. You muted him and then unmuted him and then said, tell me why my worldview is shit. He did not start saying, yo, Darth, your worldview shit. And then Darth being like, huh? Why do you think that? No, it's Darth. Why do you think my worldview is shit?
Okay, like you're blaming Darth is blaming Tom Rabbit for phrasing this debate the way Darth Dawkins phrased it in a question. Like this is class. Like I mean, this is not like if he's trying to project or trying to gaslight. This is really obviously bad. Like everybody heard you ask that question and use those words, and now you're trying to blame Tom Rabbit for the tone you set. Like Darth, oh man. Get a clue, buddy.
This is literally why, like, a good amount of Tom Rabbit's comments are way to project Darth, because that's what Darth does. Is he just projects?
But how did he forget this within they'd only been talking for like 5 minutes. Like he needs that jellyfish stuff. You know, the really jellyfish supplement that improves your memory or whatever.
Yeah, like he's slowly losing it all. Like all of his memory will slowly trickle. This is the start of it right now, Jeff. One moment you can't remember something that happened 5 minutes ago. Next thing you know, you don't even remember something that happened a day ago, and it just goes downhill from here.
Yeah, Randolph says I always find Tom to be cordial and polite. I really like those qualities. Yeah, I've seen Tom get a little snarky with people, but mostly if I've ever seen him get anything close to negative, it's him getting usually either impatient or incredulous with somebody who's trying to run some kind of game on him, like Darth is here.
Yeah, and I try to be cordial myself. In fact, I was told by this one guy. There's Muslim I talked to a while back, and he was just like, I'm happy that you're interacting with me this way, because most atheists would not try to, be peaceful and have a civil conversation that he's interacted with. So him and I are friends. He's sharing some videos to me. I'm sharing some videos to him. So
he, AJ says, to be fair, I think Tom actually did say Darth's worldview is shit first. I think he did say something like the way he said something about the way he presents it is shit. Like the way he presents
it itself, the way he presents it.
And maybe Darth got the language kind of correct there, but yeah, he was looking for the otherwise maybe he wouldn't have used the S word. So all right. I'll say he's about half right there.
Half right.
But here's the thing.
I'll give the compromise of half right.
Darth supposedly stepped away from that whole thing, so by asking that, he's listening in the entire time. Like, okay, why don't you if that was Darth's attempt to catch Tom Rabbit in a gotcha moment, like, oh yeah, you think my worldview shit, huh? Why don't you lay it out for me? And then interrupts him less than 30 seconds into his explanation. No, you tell me what your worldview is. For what purpose? Oh, so you can tell me how it's wrong from the jump? Like if it starts with anything other than the big JC, it's not getting off the ground with you. So what the hell do you want to hear? I mean, it would be funny if some Christian came in and I was like, yeah, what's your worldview? The Christian one? Oh, yeah? Do you believe this, this, and this? Sure do. Okay. So what do you want to tell me? That you're an asshole? I mean, what would he do? I mean, oh, no. Is he going to get into an argument with somebody like that? Like,
God has revealed to me through a general and special revelation that you're an idiot.
Yeah. Well, you obviously don't have the biblical worldview, because if you had a biblical worldview, you'd think that my shit don't stink. I'm Darth Dawkins. No, I don't think I don't think that's how that works, Dorothy Pooh.
He'll accuse you, no true Scotsman. No true Christian would think that I'm a piece of garbage. No, you're not a true Christian.
God equals the square root of negative 1. Doesn't worldview just mean my opinion? Yeah, well, you'd think it could. And sometimes, the way that Darth uses it, he is just talking about that. But otherwise, he's talking about, like, it's either the person's opinion or it's the total collection of all their beliefs and presuppositions and whatever. And then third, it's
an opinion.
It's God.
Because they're basically, when you think of worldview, yes, it is all the compilation of like experiences and beliefs, but it would make them think that way. It would give them an opinion. So wouldn't it still technically be an opinion?
Yeah, but I mean, when Darth Dawkins has told other Christians that the Christian that their worldview is God.
Oh yeah, Jack. At one point, One Way did. When I talked with One Way before, he started, going down the train and introducing us to the best character in the Precept drama show ever. His wife. She needs more screen time,
especially when she's yelling at One Way.
Oh yeah, but before then, One Way even mentioned, "I don't agree with Darth. Darth, the way he's approaching it is dumb." But at the end of the day, we both believe the same thing, so we'll go to heaven and we'll hash things out in heaven. Yeah, there are precepts. You're right there, Jack. That literally are just like Darth's an idiot.
Or at
it's
least
very
doing,
rare, but there are
yeah.
some.
Oh yeah, if they don't go out on a limb and say, yeah, Darth's an idiot, they're at least going to say, yeah, the way he's arguing is idiotic. Yeah, exactly.
I wouldn't go. I personally would not go about it the way he's going about it.
Yep.
We're done. By the way, we're going to do one of the infrequent Discord abortions. Here we go. Bye bye. Now we're gonna have a talk.
That's another lie. He said
babies.
He said that was infrequent. That's a lie.
That's a lie. Anybody that's not licking Darth's boots is going to get kicked. That literally happens on Reformation. It's a joke on Reformation because it's just like, oh, you got kicked by Darth. Here's a link back in.
I know it's a pain to put these things together, but I wonder if Tom Rabbit will ever, instead of just having kicked and muted, he'll actually do one that says Discord aborted instead of kicked.
Remember, aren't Darth and his minions against abortion? The poor Discord babies.
Not ironic abortions. That's perfectly fine. That's all in good fun.
Again, this is what makes me very sad that Tone had it smart and had the replay off, because I would have loved to have that video of what I described to you fully up there. I'm so upset I did not record it, but I did not expect to do that. Now I know to record.
If I talk to him verbally again, I'll be like, "Hey, what's up, 2 cubes?"
With the admin, because I was told he was supposed to be banned. Okay. You see how easy it was to defeat that hemorrhoid?
Yeah.
Okay?
You see how easy it was to defeat me when you didn't address anything I said. You wouldn't let me speak. I was asking for literally 30 seconds. By the way, this was all in response to a question that he asked me, and I was giving him an answer. And then I was muted and booted. Yeah, I do see how easy it is. Yeah, it's really easy if you do it like that, Darth.
Very.
We all heard him say he was doing an internal. Hold on a second. We all heard him say, and you'll notice, while I was here, he never spoke up, or he shows up immediately after I mute my mic and I go away. But little did he know, I'm listening in the whole time. Okay? He said my presentation in the Christian. Oh, I've been here the whole time. I just had muted my microphone because I was busy doing something, but I was listening in.
Oh.
And this atheist little hemorrhoid, this 14-year-old trapped in an adult body, who.
Okay, so now we've got an upgrade to hemorrhoid, not snot-nosed punk. Got it.
Yeah.
Like that I just realized that. I'm just like, usually it would be snot-nosed punk teenager trapped in an adult's body. That's what it used to be. Back in the days when I was like a year or two younger and I thought I could debate Darth, and then Darth does not let me talk at all and then kicks me. Yeah, apparently we've been upgraded from snot-nosed to hemorrhoid.
Yeah, he's just going to call everybody hemorrhoids from here on out.
Yeah, it's instead of hemorrhoidal attack, it was too much of a thought for Darth to differentiate the two, so he combined them. into one insult.
Hey,
You
if he
can't be
wants,
snot-nosed or hemorrhoid or having hemorrhoidal attacks, no, they're now hemorrhoid.
I don't, I don't mind if he's going to embrace brevity, but I have a feeling it won't be for long. He'll go back to the long ones, the long form.
I mean, I'm missing the long ones. That was Darth's character. I kind of want them to make a big return. The directors really should not have cut them. They should bring them back.
Donna Murphy asks, have you ever heard the three-legged stool argument? What do you think about it? I think I have heard that argument. It's been a long time since I've heard that one. I'm not exactly sure. I don't remember exactly how it goes.
Three-legged stool argument.
Yeah, so yeah, I can't really give you my impression. I'd have to review it again and then find out. I'd have to look that up again and take a look at it and see. Sorry about that.
Recording me morning, noon, and night, and uploads it to YouTube so he can earn a few bucks for beer or marijuana. Excuse me. Okay, he can't even produce his own content. This is what he has always done, even in the early days of Discord, is just provide a room where it's a shitstorm.
He's so mad.
You'll notice he doesn't upload a lot of my interactions. And in fact, most of my interactions are not uploaded. Did you ever notice that? That he only selectively uploads recordings where there's fireworks? Right? It's that simple.
Yeah, because they're entertaining you.
All right.
By the way, that was his name. You heard clearly. Somebody pointed that out. You clearly heard the mom say his name.
Still listening in.
Yeah.
For the trap to be set. So you guys see what happened there, right? He said that you need to defend your own.
You take that back a couple.
That he only selectively uploads recordings where there's fireworks? Right? It's that simple.
Yep.
Gary.
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 And immediately after, I need to take my meds or something like that.
So
Also,
is it?
now
I'm gonna do this thing. Sorry to interrupt, but I'm gonna do this thing because it used to be like I know like Tom is kind of sensitive when people get into the comments and do things like they talk about Gary, like his doxing or whatever. But like Darth Dawkins was getting ticked off about the fact that people would just use his first name. They would use that name, but it's like you keep your mom keeps calling your name in videos. This isn't this. There's this one. I think it was Darth Dawkins Debunked caught it and he plays it. I think he turns up the volume on it. So yeah. If anybody refers to him as Gary now, it's out there. Like that's not a big deal. I'm still not convinced that's his last name. The last name that I will not speak.
At least we have the first name then, because the other star of the show that's making a comeback, she already clarified that. So we have the first name confirmed by his own mom. But do you think that like maybe half the times because of this video, like half the times he says I'm gone, it's just an excuse so that he would, people would think he's gone so he can hear them talk shit about him and then just boom, mute.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Half of them are fake unless it's his actual mom
sort of
calling him for something. Half of them are actually just, I need to go do this. Meanwhile, he's listening in, ready to mute his next prey.
It's terrible. Yeah, because he's going upstairs to grab something for her, get something off a top shelf or something like that. And he's just half-assing it the entire time because 90% of his concentration is listening to people talk, thinking they're talking behind his back when the majority of them know he's just away from the keyboard. He's still listening in. Like they mentioned, like
he gets on Tom for recording all these for so long, repeatedly for long periods of time, and yet he's the one that's debating with people 24/6, 23/6, most of the hours, most of the days. He's on something debating people.
Yeah, I think it's kind of rare that he doesn't show up to check in on at least one of these platforms daily. I think it'd be really rare. My guess would be he'd have to be sick or out of town or something.
They're entertaining you.
All right, I will be. Well, I try to be. All right, I'll be back in a few minutes.
As he goes back,
listening in for the next trap to be set. So you guys see what happened there, right? He said that you need to defend your own worldview to criticize another. You don't have to do that if you're doing an internal critique, because then they both agree they have to both use logic.
Yep.
It's very simple and deceptive that they're saying that.
Exactly.
Did you get that, Tom Rabbit? Hey!
I kind of wish he had done the you're just full of shit.
I enjoyed that.
Oh no, that was great. All right, guys. I am going to wrap this one up. Alistair, thanks for joining me. I'm going to stop that screen.
Anytime.
And
I'd gladly come up whenever if I have another story, or you're just like, oh, my other co-hosts aren't up, but I want another one.
yeah, I don't.
It's fun. I've been getting more like out there again. Like I was started to properly talk with John, and also, you know, I just need to get everything set up and have my computer up, not my phone, since you know how my phone works with Streamlabs. Because I don't care if my voice is projected. I'm a video game streamer, so I'm used to having my voice out there.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Derpy Messiah tried to get me live from the chat when he was in either Praises or Smokey's room recently and told him flat out never. Yeah, that's always good. Always a good tactic. All right. Well, thank you, folks, for tuning in. I'm going to wrap it up there. Those are the last two videos from Tom Rabbit. Yeah, I'm probably going to hopefully, I don't know that I'm going to have anything planned for the rest of this week. I'm going to be reviewing a couple of, well, I'm going to be going over a couple other videos to kind of refresh myself on them, and then probably doing a weekend stream or two this weekend. So I might drop one in the middle of the week. Wait, I shouldn't say that. That sounds gross. Drop one.
Also, if Randolph sends you that link and you're reviewing it, but you're not reviewing it on here, but you're just like re-looking at it, I would love for you to give me that link with him and Darth talking, because that seems interesting to me, because Randolph and I seem to be in a very similar belief set.
Yeah, for whatever reason, like when Randolph shared it with me, I think he shared it with me on it was either it was a DM, and so it works, but I think it's like an internal one. I don't think Supreme Leader has it made public, because if you go to Supreme Leader streams and look it up, that particular one's not there, which is fine because he kind of chopped off the beginning of their conversation a little bit. But you know, what is there? I'm gonna listen through it again and then take some notes to myself, because you know, I remember kind of having this like, hey, I think you can kind of systematically go through Darth statement by statement, question by question, and just be like, no, you just contradicted yourself. No, you just, you know, no, that's, you know, he's just repeatedly contradicting his own stances, like question after question. So yeah, I might do that, and then yeah, it's only fair if I go live and review that one to have Randolph on with me, because I know. I'd say it would be fair to have Darth on with me, but that's I don't care.
But that's never going to happen anyway.
Yeah, and I don't care. I don't care about being fair to him. He's not fair to anyone. So he's not.
Yeah, well, we'll have me on too if you were to do that. I'd gladly take that, because then you have two agnostics kind of going at that. But if you only want one, that's understandable. I'll just sit in the chat if I'm up.
Yeah, I'll probably end up scheduling in advance once I've got some notes written out for it, and then yeah, we'll go from there. But I'll have to schedule it with him. We're on what. I can't remember what your time zone is, but
EST, just like you.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so
so it's literally 9:37 for me.
Yeah, he's West Coast, so so there's a little bit of a difference, but not too bad. So yeah, we'll figure it out. All right, everyone.
That's fine.
Thank you, everyone, for joining. Everyone that watched live, thank you all for the comments, live chats, all that kind of stuff. Likes, flags, hate mail, anything else that you want to send, you know, go ahead, get it done.
Angelo did not stop by. At least
yeah.
Here.
I wish, yeah, I missed that guy. Oh well. I'm actually surprised Peter showed up, but he didn't show up as Otangelo. I'm kind of surprised at that.
That would have been great. That's one thing he has on me that I don't have. I can do a meh Kent Hovind, but like Otangelo, every time I try, I sound like a dying bird. Like I cannot voice impression Otangelo.
This is I don't. If anybody takes a look at that, I think that's the one. But yeah, if you catch that one in the live chat, I think that's Randolph just dropped that link, Alistair. If you want to watch it,
I'd like to look at that, because even if you were to review it live, if I were to happen to be there, and again, if you were to have me up, I would love to have that knowledge there. I mean, if you want to, you know, Otangelo be like, bye-bye. if Jeff's okay with that, just Otangelo just come up, subscribe.
All right, everybody. Everybody have a great night. Take care of yourselves. Take it easy. Stay safe out there. And, you know, for anybody that's in the north, stay warm. It's cold right now.
Oh, yeah, it's getting colder.
Yep. So have a great night, everybody, and we will catch you all later. Take care.
Yep. Bye-bye.